a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
There is unrest in the Galactic Senate. Several thousand solar systems have declared their intentions to leave the Republic. This separatist movement, under the leadership of the mysterious Count Dooku, has made it difficult for the limited number of Jedi Knights to maintain peace and order in the galaxy. Senator Amidala, the former Queen of Naboo, is returning to the Galactic Senate to vote on the critical issue of creating an army of the Republic to assist the overwhelmed Jedi. What is up, everybody? Can you believe that we are already at part 2 of the Bombad Buildup, part 2 of the saga, chapter 2, Attack of the Clones, everyone's favorite Star Wars film. It is, it is one of, honestly, probably it's a lot deeper than I remember it, and you know what? I'm going to stop blabbing about it, and I'm going to bring in my lovely co-host, Mr. Scotty Jaro. How you doing, Scotty?
Well, actually, it's Mr. Jaro to the 6th and 7th graders at...
Oh, yeah. Go to bed, kids.
Yeah, go to bed. It's a little late for y'all. We've got some guests on here that your parents may or may not want you listening to, but that's okay. And with that being said, no, I am so excited to talk to these wonderful people we have on, and I'm even more excited to talk about probably the most memorable Star Wars title. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I think everyone remembers Attack of the Clones as a title. Like, I think that's, like, for the popular culture, Attack of the Clones is, like, so common. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, Jerry, bring in our wonderful guests we have for this special episode.
Well, for our special Attack of the Clones episode, we have none other than Alyce and Laura from the Force Toast podcast. Alyce, Laura, how you girls doing tonight?
Not too shabby for Tuesday. Gonna be a long week.
That it is.
I'm doing amazing. I still get weirded out every single time I ever hear that somebody who's like around my age is a teacher.
Oh.
That just kind of weirds me out. Because I still am convinced that most of the teachers I knew growing up were all aliens from outer space.
Well,
so not too sure about you, Scotty.
No, it's so weird.
The tradition
like,
continues, for sure.
Exactly. Well, they always go, they're always like, wait, how old are you? And I'm like, 24. And they're like, no. You're like two times my age. I'm like,
Scotty,
yeah.
are you a narc?
Yeah, exactly. I'm literally twice your age. And then they're like, oh, that's weird. I'm like, that's what I chose to do. Never mind. I'm like, it is odd. I get it. I admit it. But they think it's very weird. And trust me, when they met my girlfriend for the first time, they were even more weirded out. They're like, girlfriend. They're so used to their teachers having wives and stuff like that. So they're not used to the
judgmental children.
Yes. Oh, it's okay. They'll get over it. But anyway,
I'm just kidding, kids. You're great. Keep listening.
Well, I am just so excited to be here. Our episode with Pete went so well. I think this episode's going to continue this fantastic momentum. And with the discussion being Attack of the Clones, there's a lot of things that go through my mind whenever I say that movie's title. And to me, it's probably the Star Wars movie that I haven't watched the most. But after kind of analyzing it the way I did recently on my most recent viewing, I beg to differ. I might actually end up watching this another time this week after I discuss it with these two and Jerry, Ewok Man Cable. But what about Attack of the Clones? Like, what about it means to you? What does it mean to you as a movie? Like, do you have any sentimental feelings towards it? Alyce, I want to go with you first. What about you? How does this movie like affect you?
Well, for me, in high school, I babysat a lot and had to pay my own car insurance. And one of the families I babysat all the time, they had one Star Wars movie, and it was Attack of the Clones. And every time I came over, they knew I liked Star Wars, and they said, Alyce, let's watch Star Wars. And I watched it every time. So probably like once every 3 weeks forever I watched it. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's like Stockholm Syndrome. But What I really love about it is it's beautiful. I think the score is great. Love Pledge in the Arena is like my favorite thing, which also incorporates Across the Stars, which is amazing.
Yes.
But I think the cool thing about it is we really get it's really the catalyst for everything else that happens.
Yes.
You know, we get to see the Jedi out in full force for the first time. It spurred the Clone Wars TV show, which is amazing. We kind of see the beginning of Anakin's downfall. We see more Sidious and understand him a lot more. We see the Death Star plans, which is a really cool tidbit that a lot of people kind of forget about. Yoda just kicks ass, which we have not seen before, sure. You know, I think it's just, and it's beautiful. All of the scenes in it, we see so many planets. It's got, it's good for the ADD probably with all the different plot lines going on. But, you know, we see a lot of cool stuff and a lot of cool characters in it.
Great point. And I want to kind of cater to what you said. The structure of this movie is the most unique of all Star Wars movies. It kind of has a bunch of subplots that you really don't expect coming that like dig deeper than kind of undig themselves at a whole in a good way. And one thing I did notice with the score, I was listening to it while I was getting some work done. And there's like a raging guitar solo in the middle of the Coruscant city chase that I completely forgot about.
Have you never noticed that?
No, but it's like,
man.
it's like they're like dive bombing on a wave bar, like.
It's like this is metal as heck.
It is. It's a wild, but
It's
anyway.
like John couldn't contain himself. He just he spontaneously produced that guitar. And just started, like wailing.
I mean, it's. Those are some great reasons why to love this movie. Laura, what about you? Is there anything in particular that that kind of clings to your heart?
Well, so that's the thing about our show is that Alice and I have differing opinions on things, and one of those things is Attack of the Clones. So it may not be my favorite Star Wars movie, but at the end of the day, I agree that it enhances the lore and it does a lot of world building in Star Wars. And at the end of the day, I really love being in the Star Wars sandbox, and this movie just gives us new creatures, new characters, new planets. So at the end of the day, I'm still here for it.
Yes, indeed.
But beyond that, I don't know if it's really pulling at my heartstrings in any really significant way beyond that.
And we get 2 sandboxes of Tatooine and Geonosis.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah. Literally, yes. And we even talk about how much we like sand in the movie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Great memes.
Yes.
Who could forget?
There's one
the
scene.
most memes probably produced for everything, and the most music for audiobooks also too. I think it outdoes.
Yeah.
So
It totally does. There's one thing I want to bring up very briefly before, because I think the discussion we're going to have is a little bit, silly and serious, but there's one thing I have to bring up that made me laugh so hard. I was watching the movie last night, and they had it's of course it gets everywhere sand conversation, and then when he gets to Tatooine and he buries his mom. I can't say without laughing. He's leaning in front of his grave, and he grabs a handful of sand and lets it run between his fingers. And I'm like, is this a fetish thing? I don't know. It's he was
wow.
I don't know.
You heartless prick. He just lost his mom. Okay,
but the way
he doesn't know how to feel.
But
there's some weird shit out there.
Yeah.
I have a friend who loves watching Instagram stories of people mushing laundry detergent together in water.
I think I've heard
it's
of
very
this.
strange.
Not just that, but just the liking to watch people squish things between their fingers.
Well,
Shame. No shame.
Maybe it's your mother's sand graveyard that people like.
Yikes.
I mean, it's just a thing I noticed. I thought it was so strange.
Right.
I thought it was the weirdest thing. It's he looks down and he grabs a handful of sand. I'm it's just this is making you hate this way more. You went from I don't like sand to I hate sand, very quickly.
You know,
I just imagine like the direction that he was getting at the time. It's like, now reach down and grab that sand. Stroke the sand. Squeeze it.
Squeeze it harder.
Between your fingers.
It's like George over there, like with wild, crazy hair as usual. It's like, yeah, more sand, more. At him like a fan. No, okay. Look, this is all I'll say about Hayden Christensen's acting because we're trying to, you know, I honestly think he does fairly good for what it is. I mean, it's a Star Wars movie. It's a pulpy space adventure.
Yeah.
George Lucas is not an actor's director, but and terrible at dialogue. Anyway, well, yeah, I'm falling down the negativity hole. Anyway, no, we see, like, I just love that delivery of the line though, where he goes, "I miss you, Mom, so much." It's on par with Revenge of the Sith whenever Ewan McGregor goes, "I saw a security hologram of him killing younglings hand over face," you know, like those line deliveries just kill me every time. So
You can just hear the faster, more intense.
yeah.
Totally.
More hand. Get that hand in that mustache. Come on, Ethan.
No, Jerry, what is this movie for you? What about this movie kind of brings it home for you? You know, why is it your cup of tea?
Let me finish.
Yeah, sorry, sir. I'm gonna let you finish.
No, yeah. Come on. Let's be professional here, which is new for us. I will admit that whenever this Murphy, this is going well. So whenever this movie came out on DVD, it was the first one on DVD, by the way. Fun fact, I'm old. And I remember getting it, and I would watch it like every single night.
Wow.
Like, my parents would be going to bed and stuff, and I would like go into the living room and just pop on Attack of the Clones and just like chill out. I loved it. And, you know, as the years went by and I kind of got, you know, worked at a movie theater and found out my friends didn't really like that kind of stuff, you know, I like, okay, I guess I got to kind of keep that kind of quiet. And eventually I was like, you know, it's not the best one. And I think we can all get kind of lost in gosh, this is kind of like, it's one of the hardest ones to watch, but it's still, like Laura, like you were saying earlier, it still has that Star Wars world building. It's still that Star Wars sandbox. And there's, honestly, watching through this time and taking diligent notes, which started out very like off the wall and bonkers, but I ended up like kind of focusing towards the end. There's a lot to get out of this movie, actually, in certain places. There's a little more meat to it than I remember being there. And so I guess I remember being so super psyched. I was older, you know, I was like a preteen when this one came out. And I don't know, the prequels really kind of helped me through my adolescence, I guess. So there you go. That's not super serious, but yeah, okay.
No, that's a beautiful point.
Yeah.
For me,
you're a beautiful man, so thank you.
Oh, that's so kind. No,
Yeah.
it's weird. I can kind of relate to it. It's like it's almost the movie that I think, at least for me, that I've forgotten had released, if that makes any sense. I remember The Phantom Menace vividly. I was like 5. I remember that. But for this movie, I almost don't remember it. Like, even I remember seeing it in theaters, but I don't remember like the trailers, the merchandise, not like anything for it, like a single thing. But like when I got it on DVD, I was the same way. It was one that I wanted to put on. But Revenge of the Sith for me was the one that I like really put on like every day after school. But like especially for Attack of the Clones, I think the one thing that stood out to most people whenever you're like 7 or 8 years old was the Yoda, you know, fight scene at the very end. And I think I remember seeing that in theaters vividly and all the Geonosis stuff. But the whole love aspect, I kind of didn't get probably up until about 7 or 8 years ago, you know? And it's really an interesting movie because a lot of people regard it as their least favorite or the worst Star Wars movie, but at the same time, it's like you said, Jerry, there's a lot to really tear into it. There is a lot in this movie that people don't give it enough credit for. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think it has a very special place in my heart. But I guess we can either go into it right now, or if you want to talk about one more thing, I've got some things listed.
Let's get into it, man. Sorry, I muted my mic there.
No, it's okay.
It's also got great meme potential.
Yes.
So there is that. So, no, man, I think we've really kind of covered it. Let's get into the meat of this thing.
Okay, so my thing is right now we started off the Phantom Menace with where are we in this galaxy? Like, what is the state of the galaxy currently? And for this movie, it is divided. It is very much divided. There's a separatist movement, and there's the Galactic Republic that we're already familiar with. The separatist movement is trying to get away from all the ruling and all these regulations that the Republic has given upon them and other small worlds in the Outer Rim area because they don't get the treatment that these inner worlds get. And it starts off very different for a Star Wars movie, a pan down, which I think is
up.
No, I'm sorry, pan up.
It's a pan up.
Pan up. And is there another one that does that? I don't think.
Nope.
Nope. The only one.
Only this
It's
one.
a common trivia question that we have gotten many a time.
I bet.
This is why we have you guys on, okay? Because
Exactly.
you've been through all of this, and you know.
But one thing I want to get into, this is a little bit more diving into the real world aspect of it. It starts with this very big planned assassination of Padme. And it feels now, I don't know if it's because I studied history when I was in college, but it feels like a very real world like thing that would happen like in the 1920s, you know, to some like delegate from Czechoslovakia. You know what I mean? Like, or who's the guy that was killed? Franz Ferdinand. He was like shot when he first arrived into a city. You know, it's kind of a really bizarre way to open a movie, but it kind of gets the point. Like, okay, people are trying to kill Padme. Obviously, this group of people are very upset that she is in charge and she's doing something that they must disagree with. So it's like they land on that planet, and it's actually a very beautiful opening scene and jumps right into it, and then we lose Corday, if I'm not mistaken.
Corday, yeah.
Yes.
And that's a very kind of emotional scene. And the one thing I want to bring up, which I thought was very interesting, and it's not really brought up often, but R2-D2 was on the Naboo starfighter with Padme, which is very kind of interesting because, you know, it kind of can reflect Luke later, you know, in the X-Wing with Luke in the X-Wing with R2. It's just, you never would have thought Padme would be driving a starfighter nonetheless with R2-D2. So I think that's kind of
Well, I mean, she owns R2.
That's true. That's true. But like a starfighter, I don't know. I guess it didn't dawn on me till I watched it. I'm like, cool. She's like not like in the big ship, you know? And I'm kind of...
She's Leia's mom through and through, man. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about last night, you know, like they are going to get things done the way they want to get them done. They, you know,
exactly.
It's like, don't tell me what to do. We're going to get it done. And, you know, and Queen Shadow kind of elaborates on a lot more of that, too, of her, like, R2 is her droid and stuff. Starting off that whole 10-year period, he kind of really sticks along with her. So. Yeah.
And the wonderful thing that was introduced in this movie was Milady. And they do it the whole movie. And I don't think they do it at all in The Phantom Menace, do they? Where they call her Milady. Milady.
Oh gosh, I'm having...
I don't think they do.
I can't remember now.
Because...
It would be Your Highness,
yes,
so
yeah.
I don't think so.
It is Milady. Milady is the senatorial title.
It was just every other person was Milady. And I was like, this sounds like I'm on some sort of weird forum, but anyway, it was kind of an interesting opening scene, and like it goes straight into, you know, them in Palpatine's quarters, and Yoda being so empathetic towards Padme, which I thought was very interesting because he kind of comes and he's like, oh, you know, Senator Amidala, I'm, you know, so sorry, it's terrible what happened to you, and it's not a relationship I thought I would see, or a conversation I thought I would see in a movie. Now, it happens a lot in Clone Wars, but the movie, kind of interesting, you know?
It is because it's one of those things where there are so many senators because there are so many systems, and it's like it's sort of strange that he has somehow honed in on her and that he actually knows her, you know, by name.
Exactly, and that's something that really isn't brought back up at all through the movie, and the whole scene with the Jedi being by Palpatine is just like, how do you not know? I love that part. Like, I didn't think about how much it would drive me crazy when watching it, but like, I'm pretty sure there's a quote I put in here where they literally like, yeah, you know, the dark side's really clouded us. We don't, and he's like telling literally the man who's doing it. Yeah, no, it says this.
It's like an episode of Arrested Development right there.
Yeah, it's like
I hope the Dark Lord isn't here. He will.
yeah. It's he literally says the dark side is clouding everything, while literally talking to the dude who's doing it. So it's like it's kind of weird that like you already kind of start off this movie with like, well, at least now we know that it's this dude, causing all these issues, but like Palpatine is already in control. He's already kind of planting these seeds.
And I made like a note of like just kind of thinking with how like new canon deals with the Jedi and stuff, what a Jedi should be. Like, how weird is it now going back to like Attack of the Clones and stuff like this and seeing like these guys who are supposed to be like a religious like order or whatever. Well, they're also a police force and they're having like political meetings, and it's just kind of like, I don't know, art imitates life, and it's just kind of crazy. So
yeah, it's a good point. It's a really good point, and I just love that of course Palpatine makes the subtle suggestion, well, maybe Padme should be under the watch of a Jedi, like Obi-Wan, and it's like, no, you don't mean that. We know what you mean.
That makes an awful lot of suggestions.
Yeah, this whole this whole movie he does. It's like every little thing's a suggestion, especially this part, And
yeah, I think Palps had a notion or could feel that Anakin's thoughts were really wrapped around Padme, so it was like part of his way to force them together. As part of his plan, because I think that he had everything with her planned out, and I'm in the camp that I think in Revenge of the Sith he planted those dreams in Anakin's head. There's no proof of it, but I think even sending him with Padme, sneakily suggesting Obi-Wan, was part of the bigger picture for sure.
Well, that's what you just said is perfect, because that's what we talked about with Pete about how I'm convinced Palpatine is the father of Anakin in its own weird right. Like planting these kind of weird, like force things throughout Anakin's entire life would be just such a brutal thing. And it's obviously very true that, he's been manipulating Anakin from this very movie, because the whole entire time he's like, I think you're the best, whatever. And it's so like, it's creepy. It's really creepy, especially what Jerry said with the last episode. He was like, we'll watch your crew with great interest. It's like, ooh, like
stay away from baby Anakin.
Yeah, he's a little kid. Like, don't talk. That's weird. It's very weird. But it's Palpatine's one creepy dude. But one thing I do kind of like in this movie, because the Phantom Menace, he's like front and center. He's Sidious, Palpatine, the whole movie. I like that Sidious actually takes the back burner on this one. And we don't see Sidious like at all until like the very end of the movie. And Palpatine kind of takes the back burner too. I never really thought
about that. I just finished watching this like a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I didn't even think about that.
Like he
had bigger fish to fry.
Yeah,
he's working on that clone army and chit-chatting with Dooku, so it doesn't really matter what happens to Padme, because either way he's going to get his way with having the Clone Wars start.
Exactly. And going into one of the next bigger scenes in the movie is whenever Obi-Wan and Anakin are in the going up the elevator, and I thought that would look bad. Now it actually doesn't look too bad. I was actually pretty impressed with the visuals of it. I'm like, this looks pretty good. And obviously Anakin's extremely nervous, and you can just tell like by body language and by how he's talking to Obi-Wan. It's just awkward, and you see pretty much he's like. He gets out and Padme doesn't even recognize him, and it's kind of brutal. He's like, "Oh, Obi-Wan," and then Jar Jar's like, "Oh, that's Obi," and then no one acknowledges Anakin, which is kind of interesting. And it
when she does, it's like one of those weird. It's like she weirdly goes. It's like, "Oh, you'll always be that little boy I knew on task." I mean, friending him, right away. So.
Oh, instantly, and I don't think she meant anything by it, but I bet in his heart it was like.
Oh, it was brutal for him. You just look the look on his face, like the looks on Hayden Christensen's face are like they're brutal and hysterical.
They're really good.
Movie, they're really they're really good. But it's just like he gets handed so much just I don't want to say disrespect because it's like he's being like the dude doesn't know how to act around real people because he's out with a bunch of stoic monks all day, you know.
Well,
and I love Yoda, but you know, I don't know. He's the most social of all of them.
Yeah. There's a scene where they're packing to go, and Anakin is just sitting and watching her pack.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, what a creeper. Like, what if she's packing her underwear and he's just standing there like, moping around and staring. It's bizarre.
Well,
and then talking about how big he's getting, right?
Yeah.
So, way to put the icing on the cake
grown.
there, Annie. Yeah.
Well, it's weird. Like, that's one thing I have written in the notes. It says, like, this is the only type of relationship he does know. I mean, the only other relationship he had with a woman was his mother, and that was torn apart, you know, and he's actually very conflicted this entire movie with his mom and the horrible dreams he has. And he even says it to, he literally says it to Obi-Wan, I don't sleep well anymore. And then Obi-Wan knows, which is kind of interesting. Obi-Wan's like, yeah, it's because of your mom, and to me, and I touched base on this recently, but I think this whole dream premonition thing, this whole dream sequences he's having, like you said, could be, caused by Palpatine. But the only other character that's ever brought up like an issue or a thing happening in their dreams was also Rey, when Kylo tapped into her mind. And I think it's kind of an odd parallel to see that, like, I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if George didn't think of it in 1977 when A New Hope came out, but like JJ definitely kind of got, kind of took that in its own weird way, because I don't know if that's because of his mistakes he's causing these things to happen, or if it's an actual insight into the future, because that's one thing that can
right.
Yeah. Sorry.
One of us is going to win this eventually. If you look at his character in Rey, Luke had a pretty, even though he was, an orphan, quote unquote, he was raised by a loving aunt and uncle, whether, however you feel about Uncle Owen, if he was too harsh on him or whatever, but he grew up a relatively normal life, whereas Anakin just had his mom and was a slave, and then was whisked away at a very young age.
Yes.
In a monastic order, and learned how to use a laser sword and all that. And Rey just has been an orphan from a very young age, living a really hard life, like probably the hardest life we've seen any character live on screen. So you look at those two having the most issues and having dreams of Rey dreaming of her parents who left her family who left her, and they might come back, and also of some island or whatever that's somehow connected to her,
Yeah.
We know how that turns out. But I don't know, maybe that's the connection and stuff, just kind of like these characters who are force sensitive, who have gone through like some serious crap.
Yeah.
They I don't know, really getting it laid on pretty thick from the force. Or either way. And it could be maybe I don't know. I'm about to go crazy with speculation. In episode 7.
Well, one thing that can be said about this whole relationship too, between Anakin and Obi-Wan, it's actually acknowledged, but it's such a subtle line. After this whole chase scene happens and they're in the bar, and right when they walk in, Anakin literally says, "You're the closest thing I have to a father, Obi-Wan." And it's like, whoa, it's never really touched base on again. Maybe in Revenge of the Sith, it's maybe brought up somehow through, I guess, narrative. But like this part right here is very interesting whenever they kind of go from the whole space chase sequence, which, Jerry, I know you wanted to talk about that. Bring up what you wanted to talk about in particular, the not space, I'm sorry, the Coruscant chase, which I like. It's a long sequence, but I like it.
Well, all I put in my notes, I think, was that let me see, the speeder chase is great, and I'll die on that hill. So that's what I wrote down. I don't know. I heard a lot of people kind of talk about. I listened to a few podcasts getting ready to do this episode, trying to cram for the final, and a lot of people were like, I really feel like people kind of lose their focus around that part, and I'm like, why? It's so cool. Like I said, it's metal as heck. That John Williams just pulls out that electric guitar and starts shredding, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of want to bring up a little thing about Anakin that I was listening to. I'm going to give him a shout out. A Star Wars Story podcast. They're a fairly new podcast too. I don't know if anyone's heard of them, but they were talking about how Anakin is a total ADHD kid. And I say I am too. And the girl who was on there had just been diagnosed with it, and she said, "You look at him like he interrupts like Obi-Wan like right there at the beginning and stuff. You know, like." He's like talking to Padme, saying like, "All right, we're gonna like protect you and stuff," and he's like, "We will find out who's trying to kill you," and stuff. He takes forever to pick the speeder. You know, he runs down an entire line of them until he's like, "Okay, I want that one." And what else is there? He's like really, really good, like hyper focused at being a Jedi, but he sucks at everything else, and he keeps losing his. So there you go. I am a big proponent of Anakin Skywalker being an ADHD kid theory, and I'm coming out right here. So there we go. Boom.
There you go.
Thoughts. Laura, Alyce, what do you think?
First of all, I think Alyce texted me and said her PC crashed again, so she's on her way back. But yeah, she's working on it. I know it's just not a good night for her, but that's okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
But I'll jump in. I will say I have to probably agree that Anakin had ADHD.
What do they call it in the Star Wars universe? Like he has the attention seekers. Or something.
Sure, something like that.
Attention.
My issue is that you would think with all the advanced technology that they have, that they would be able to diagnose and treat that in some way. But
not if you're a
say
Jedi.
That, and apparently they didn't have any kind of scans or anything for women like Padme and Revenge of the Sith who were expecting that could even detect that she was carrying twins or anything else. So
it's like
go
in
figure.
The future, but somehow in the past too.
Yes.
Yeah. The medical advancement is all questionable, to say the least.
Like,
so
you guys can just put someone in like a jar of goo and like heal them of like a broken arm in like 2 hours, but you can't like. You can't find some Ritalin for this poor kid? I mean, no. But anyway.
Sorry, guys. I'm back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
We're talking about...
Happy to be here.
Jerry was just touching base on how Anakin's a child of ADHD and how he keeps losing stuff and he doesn't really focus on the conversations too well. Just kind of just blurts out. He's kind of disrespectful, but he doesn't mean to be. And it definitely shows up later too in the movie, not just this opening sequence, but like when he cuts off the Padme whenever they're talking to all the other delegates of Naboo. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like,
and she like lets him have it, And
yeah.
No, but they also, and again, shout out to a Star Wars Story podcast. The girls on there who I was listening to this week, and they brought this to my attention. That I have never noticed. Someone who has ADHD has never noticed it, which I mean it makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but no, they were even talking about how Padme is like a calming presence for him, and that's a thing with ADHD people is like you have certain people who you're able to like focus better around or like calm your thoughts and all that. And so, and again, not to get too like heavy on it. But, like, I don't know, I really liked that theory. And, again, we got to think of a Star Wars name for ADHD now, I guess. So.
Well, it leads into a good point. You brought up how he, like, loses his lightsaber. And it's funny, like, there's an odd placement on the significance of his
Twice
lightsaber.
In this movie.
Yeah. And the significance of it in this movie is very interesting. How it's kind of brought up, like, this thing is your life. Don't lose this. But, like, it ends up getting cut in half. And I guess the lightsaber that Rey ends up finding is another one he makes at some point, which I think is kind of odd, Like, you would think George would have made it be like the same lightsaber and it's not damaged or anything. But it ends up being just, like, destroyed by the end of this movie.
Talk about poetry, it rhymes, of this one being the second film. Last Jedi, the lightsaber gets broken in half as well. So, boom. There you go.
Subtle.
There's poetry, it rhymes.
I mean, he makes a totally different lightsaber because what I find is interesting is they kind of, or from what we've seen at least, Obi-Wan's original lightsaber was somewhat similar to Qui-Gon's, and Anakin's first lightsaber was somewhat similar to Obi-Wan.
Oh.
And then he changed the styling completely for Revenge of the Sith, and that style is what he maintained as Vader.
Yes.
Very similar.
Yes. See,
A splash of black, to really like drive home the point. You're like, I'm bad now.
yeah.
Don't mess with me.
Yeah, and it's funny. I guess I never really analyzed it that deep into the one from Attack of Clones versus the one in Revenge of the Sith. And I have one like literally on my shelf right here. I'm looking at it. Not the Attack of the Clones one, but the I guess the hero one that everyone calls now. And it is very similar to Vader's. Like I never really gave it that much thought. Wow, very similar. But
And back in 1977, it's probably like, this is what a lightsaber looks like for a good bad guys.
yeah, it's the same thing, just darker.
I love how it's like now we're like really getting to the deep themes of the lightsaber design. Like back then, it was probably just George going, "I like one, and that one black, and that's Darth Vader's."
You do such a good George. I think it's so good.
Thank you. It's again really close to Kermit, so I gotta be careful. Slip. Anyway, here we go! Yay! Let's go.
Well, to me, the whole bar sequence that happens, it's such a funny visual parallel to the Mos Eisley bar scene, and like literally the same thing happens. Like Obi-Wan turns around, slices off someone's arm. It's just like it's just so funny. It's so like unapologetic. I love it. It just happens.
It is like a complete mirror image, but also it's so funny because in this movie we get basically 2 Star Wars versions of real life things. Like that's a sports bar.
Yes.
Then we get Dex's Diner, which I know we'll probably talk about later. But like like it's totally a sports bar. There's like some like droids, like the same. I think it's like the same kind of droid that's like pulling the rickshaw that they're in on Tatooine later, playing football. A bunch of them playing football or something, whatever the Star Wars version of football is. And I know I'm the canon junkie, but I don't know what that is. So.
There's totally a name too.
Oh, probably. I want to say it's something spacey like that. So, anyway.
Well, when they're in there, he says the line, Obi-Wan says, "Why do I get the feeling you will be the death of me?" And I'm like, did George just like, like, what was he doing with that? Like, I love I love that it's so abrupt, and I mean, yeah, he actually will be the death of you, but it's funny that he even places that in that scene in particular. I don't know. I like
it's
it.
Almost
It feels,
as if,
yeah. I feel like every time I hear that line, I just think of somebody in the theater in 2002, just like some lone person sitting there that's just like, oh, come on. Like as soon as he says it.
that's so funny.
Oh,
I was
God.
there in 2002, and I can confirm all you nerds ate it up. So stop complaining. So
Got it.
no. What I just like can picture like George, like it's almost as if George steps in front of the camera and just goes, "Obi-Wan is going to be killed by Darth Vader," and I'll try. It just feels like it is it's very ham-fisted.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of that's par for the course in these.
Yeah. And I really kind of dig it.
We love George's ham fist.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe shouldn't have worded it quite like that. But.
No offense taken.
Yeah.
Hand fist. No, it's a cool sequence, and honestly, it dawned on me when I was watching it. It's kind of what I expect we might see in The Mandalorian, like shot for shot. How it's them kind of walking through a bar, and it's like a shot of like her waist, and then the hand on the gun, and like it's kind of noir-ish. I don't know, like it kind of got
Feels
me.
very Blade Runner-y too.
Yeah,
doesn't
it does. Yeah, the neon aspect of it. Yeah, it really good point. Yeah, and Zam's an interesting character. I wish she had gotten more backstory, because in the Bounty Hunter game, she's actually super interesting.
Yeah. Well, what's funny about the character Zam Wessel, the bounty hunter there, I listened to like several podcasts on Attack of the Clones to try to prepare for this, like all in one day, because our recording schedule for the first couple of episodes of this is a little nuts for me and Scotty. We're like kind of recording back to back almost, but we've got they were talking about how just for no reason, like they love Attack of the Clones because it's like the most George Lucas craziness of any of the Star Wars movies. It's like he was just kind of like like, I don't really know what's going to happen in the middle one, so I'm just going to make some crazy stuff up. And one day he was just like, hey, we got to have this bounty hunter. Let's make her a changeling. Does that have anything? No.
Yeah.
Just make her a changeling.
Yeah. It doesn't affect anything now or later. It's just how it is.
Yeah, and it's like, and now we have changelings, which it made for some good episodes of the Clone Wars and stuff. I think like a changeling character in the comics, wasn't there? One of the Vaders or something. Anyway,
and then
yeah, changelings.
Well, when we have Sam's death, it kind of does. Interesting enough, one of my favorite subplots of any Star Wars movie is this whole Obi-Wan, noir investigation. I guess entire subplot is so interesting. It's such a weird turn for a Star Wars movie, and like not even in a bad way. I think it's such a cool thing. I wish we could get a whole series like this, just a murder mystery, but it's a Jedi doing all the work. It was kind of a cool thing, and yeah, that's whenever we go find about the cloners on Camino, and
oh gosh.
and
well, first of all, what is everyone's feelings on? Are we going to talk about Dexter Jetster right now? Like, how does everyone feel about Dexter Jetster? 'Cause I gotta say, I want to go have like a Jawa juice with that guy. I just he seems so interesting, and I love it. And he reminds me of my Uncle Sam, honestly. So, but with 2 arms. So.
Got it. I want to just be a regular in his bar. I just want to be one of the people that lives above it and comes down and hangs out every night. And it's like, hey, Dex. Like, that's just the life that I want to live.
Yeah, I want to try out his specialty dish, which is sliders.
No way.
Strangely enough.
Is it for real?
It's a very weird piece of trivia, but allegedly that's the case.
Father sliders.
Oh.
No, wait. No, that's not. No. Okay, sorry. I need to watch The Last Jedi again because that's not the point of that movie.
It's like eating horse meat.
That is true. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's bantha sliders. There you go. Because no one cares about the banthas. They're the meat. They're the meat animal.
They're just elephants.
They cook them in the holiday special,
Giant bantha steaks. It's like a brontosaurus rib from the Flintstones.
Brontosaurus rib. Oh man, that's excellent. No, it's one thing. Before we get into Dexter, it's funny because one of the next sequences is he's in the Jedi archives looking stuff up, and I forget her name. I'm sure y'all know her name.
Jocasta Nu.
Jocasta Nu. Like,
oh yeah.
And pardon my French, just goes and like shits all over Obi-Wan. He's like, if it's not in the database, it doesn't exist. And he's like, but no, it's like it's not there. It's just like it's brutal. And he kind of sits there. He's like, well, I don't believe her, but I'm not going to say she's wrong.
Yo. Jocasta Nu is an HBIC. If you read those Vader comics, her story arc is awesome.
Yes.
I like how she wears the chopsticks in her hair because I remember buying those at Claire's when I was in middle school, and it was the coolest thing ever.
Nice.
That's awesome. No, I think she's wonderful, and that is a very interesting I guess sequence of events in those Vader comics. But like the way she just kind of like dumps on Obi-Wan is amazing. It's like she has no regard for any of the research and the questions he has. He's like, it's not there. Nope. Go away.
She's 100% the like stereotypical librarian.
Yes. Yeah.
Like no, if it's not in here, then we don't have it. So,
yeah.
It exists, so.
It doesn't exist.
No, for real. Jocasta Nu is probably one of the. I would like to know more about her, and she kicked serious butt in that Vader comic for sure, Alice. Like I loved that. That was such a cool arc with her, and really added so much more. And I mean, I love the stuff with her in the Clone Wars. So
we got Obi-Wan going on this weird route of doing all this investigative research, and all the while we've got Anakin and Padme's bond growing more, and he goes into that big old rant about Obi-Wan. He's holding me back, I have it written down exactly what he says right here.
And that's when he watches her pack all of her clothes.
Exactly. and she's actually kind of very kind in the scene. I was thinking back about it. She was very, helpful and talkative, and he goes on his weird little Luke Skywalker thing. You know, I don't know if y'all noticed that, but like he becomes super whiny, but not in like a I'm just complaining way. It's like in a dude, just like chill out. Like it's gonna be okay.
In a Skywalker man way.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. It's kind of, for me, it made me uncomfortable, but it's interesting because it's the first we kind of hear a Jedi complain about their master, you know? Like, Obi-Wan never complained about Qui-Gon. Don't get me wrong, Obi-Wan is a great mentor. He is wise. He is wise as Master Yoda, powerful as Master Windu, and I'm thankful to be his apprentice, but I am ahead of him. I think it's a cool line because, I mean, he acknowledges a lot of points, and Obi-Wan is, to me, the GOAT of all Jedi, but besides Qui-Gon. Him and Qui-Gon are tied. But, like, is he ahead of him, you think? Let's be real.
I think he thinks he is.
Yeah.
I don't think he actually is. But he's got such arrogance in him that I think that he totally believes it. I do think that one of the interesting things that we've sort of learned with some of the follow-up canon that we've gotten out of Star Wars since this movie came out, I'm thinking of like Master and Apprentice and Dooku Jedi Lost, where we get to see a little bit of interaction between the students with each other. And I feel like there was a whole thing where Anakin became, Qui-Gon's Padawan for a very brief time, where he said, I take him as my Padawan learner. And Anakin never even got to spend any time in the temple among his peers. Like, he didn't get to learn what it was like to be able to vent to somebody about his frustrations or vent to a peer like that. Like, all he ever got, it sounds like, was Obi-Wan, and you can't very well just sit there and talk shit to someone's face. So it's one of those things that I think it's like part of it's like a developmental thing where he just missed out on a certain part of adolescence, it sounds like. Maybe he did spend time in the temple. Maybe I just missed it, among other students. But it kind of sounds like Obi-Wan took him on, and it was a pretty solid, a lot of quality time with just the two of them from then on.
Yeah, good point. And that could totally play into his awkward delivery and just awkward presence overall in this movie. It's kind of not even as an acting thing, and a lot of people want to attribute to that, but I think his direction was like, you got to be awkward, because you can totally blame it on, George Lucas can't do this, can't do that. But I think it really is, Anakin must have not had a lot of development. I mean, obviously he was a slave boy on Tatooine, and then he gets exposed to this great big world. I mean, that must mess you up a little bit, trauma-wise. But, like, everything else and socially, he's not all the way there. And you could see that struggle throughout this, except among the Jedi. He seems to be pretty reverent and regular among the Jedi, but when he's around people that are, either delegates or just Padme herself, in the beginning, he doesn't really know how to compose himself, but it's kind of cool. Throughout the movie, you see him progress. He becomes way more open. So I think that's an interesting point, too, And I like that it feels like, it's kind of a weird thing to say, but it feels like Obi-Wan and I forget the man with the eye patch's name. Lord, what's his name?
Typho.
Captain
Typho.
Captain Typho. I like how they kind of send Padme and Anakin off like they're going on like prom or something. He's like, I think he's leaning there. He's like, I think I'm worried about Anakin. He might do something reckless. And he's like, oh, you're worried about Anakin? I'm more worried about Padme. And R2 is like following behind him, and I'm like, this is such a weird, point to get brought up, but it obviously it
definitely feels like a couple of dads dropping their kids off, doesn't it?
Yeah, and
but
they were
have
right.
Fun, be safe.
But the weird thing is they were right. There was in both parts their equal choice to do what they did. You know what I mean? Fall in love and make reckless decisions. And I guess before that, I kind of jumped the gun there. I'm sorry, y'all. Before that, we get Palpatine talking to Anakin alone before they go on that mission. And Palpatine had to write this whole thing down because it really kind of made me think about it. And he gets so slowly manipulated by, Anakin gets manipulated by Palpatine. He literally goes like, so they finally give you an assignment. And Anakin's yes. He says something like, yes, but I still need guidance. And Palpatine says this: you don't need guidance. In time, you will learn to trust your feelings. Then you will be invincible. I've said it many times. You're the most gifted Jedi I've ever met. Even more powerful than Master Yoda. I'm like, whoa. Like, you just stroked his ego, and you did it exactly how he wanted to hear it. Like, come on, are you kidding me? You said this to a 19-year-old kid. Like, come on. It's
cool it, dude.
Yeah. But Palpatine knows what he's doing, man. He's playing these cards so well, and then they get sent off on the assignment, and this is where our narrative kind of splits a little bit, and the story kind of changes pace, which I actually really like. There's a lot of jumping back and forth that I didn't expect. It's a lot more jarring than most Star Wars movies. But anyone have anything they want to say about Palpatine in particular being so front with Anakin and being so like, no, you're the best, man. Don't listen to anyone.
I don't have anything to add to it, no. But he certainly is stroking the ego.
Big time.
He's pressing all of the right buttons, and Palpatine is just such a master at that. But I don't know. Yeah, what can you say that hasn't already been said about Palpatine except for that? I mean, the dude is just the more I watch these movies, the more I like, ooh, this guy is gross.
Yeah.
I don't like him. It's not as clear, like, oh, okay, this is just the bad guy as much as it was back when I was younger. So
no,
anyway.
and that's an interesting thing because, I mean, not that we need to dive down into that rabbit hole, but yeah, definitely he is not just the bad guy. He's definitely playing his cards very well with each character, and even Jar Jar later in the movie, which I think is particularly interesting. But yeah, no, it leads into them going to Naboo, and they have to take it's kind of Titanic-esque. They have to go into like the undercarriage of some sort of ship, and they have to eat the food. And one of my favorite lines happens here.
They have to eat the pancakes.
Yeah, they have to eat the pancakes,
which is delicious.
No,
I want some of those.
I love that he's like, we don't serve droids, and it's the droid server. I thought that was so weirdly ironic. I love that. It's like,
and it looked like that droid was specifically manufactured ginormous, and his only ability is to make pancakes. Like looks like he could be like a bruiser, like battle droid. Like that's what the battle droid should be. But this guy, his specific job is to make pancakes. Have you noticed that?
It's a great point on the undercarriage of a ship, of like a storage ship.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it was repurposed or whatever. But I mean, I want one of those guys though. So.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all. That is all. That's my only input.
Well, I want to know, does R2 drop the plate on the table then leave? Because I know he's not in the scene after that. Or does he take the plate of pancakes and just
I think he actually brings it to the table. I don't know if he dropped anything, but no, Jar Jar. Oh my gosh. Here. R2 is he is a great waiter.
Yes.
We found that out in Return of the Jedi. I mean, he is all about when he's given like a task, like, hey, go serve some drinks. He's like, all right, I'm gonna do it classy.
Yeah.
All right. I'm all business when it comes to this. So yeah. So I think he dropped it very nicely and stuff. He probably left the check and then scooted off into the background.
Oh no, it's such a cool scene, and to think that this is where their kind of conversation actually gets somewhat regular. They talk about compassion and how a Jedi should feel, and I actually had a lot more insight after they discussed it, and they said compassion, which is defined as unconditional love, is central to a Jedi's life, and I kind of love that. I really, really like that, because that's true, and I guess shouldn't that be every vocation? It should be some unconditional love, some compassion you would have for someone, or your faith even, I don't know, or like whatever your cause is. So I think that's a cool thing that never really gets brought up ever again. So the Jedi kind of are allowed to love, but not in the physical realm, and more of the spiritual way,
Yeah, which kind of sucks.
I mean, you're right.
Yeah, you ask, like, shouldn't every vocation be like that? And I'm like, well, Catholic priests, I think, would disagree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, there are some McDonald's workers, I'm sure, too, who could definitely deserve to, like, make those burgers with a little more compassion.
Yeah, exactly. Every little job. No, it's odd because Padme kind of, you can see it, her change in, I guess, tone and feeling. She kind of understands it now, and understands where he's coming from. And then we kind of jump. This is where it gets a little cut back and forthy. We get the Padme and Anakin thing, and then it goes back to Obi-Wan at Dex's, or he's like walking into Dex's diner. And I mean, like Jerry was saying earlier, I would love, and Lauren as well, I would just love to be there, and be a regular at Dex's. But Dex as a character is kind of cool, and he was not a minor, he was a
prospector.
Prospector on Sub Terrell.
That's it, on Sub Terrell.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I noticed that I have no idea why I didn't think of this. The phrase that's been memed so many times, well, what do you know? That is actually said by Watto later. I never realized it. I wrote that down. I'm like, what a weird thing. Did George, was it kind of like the, what was that one line in The Phantom Menace? You assume too much. And then Padme, you assume too much. It's like...
Yeah, it's just like written throughout the entire movie. And it's like he had one, someone told that to him before, said that in conversation before lunch. And after lunch, he was like, oh, I just really want to put that in here. I can't stop putting that in here. So,
what do you know is...
He had a phrase a day calendar. Who knows?
Maybe. And if for Dex to say it and the Watto to say it, have you ever written out that phrase, what do you know? It's the most ridiculous.
What do you know?
I wrote it out when I was doing these notes, and I'm like, I can't believe George typed that. Twice. Not just once, but he's
Watto's is my favorite because he's like, a Jedi, what do you know? He does the fists and stuff. Hey, tending to box. Here we go, buddy. Hey, we're friends, right? Yeah. I used to own you. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. It's what Watto's thinking, how do I make this not awkward?
That's one thing I think is funny, and we'll get into that later, but when he gets a tattoo and he's like, let me go look through my records of, all the previous slaves you've had? What do you mean? He has to go find where he sold Shmi to.
He's got a filing cabinet of all the people he's ever owned. It's just very problematic. So
make my back crawl.
Yeah.
But
it's icky.
One line that Dex says that I don't think gets enough credit. He says to, he shows him the dart. And he goes, what do you think this is? And he's like, oh, I know exactly what this is. This is from the Kaminoans, whatever. And Dex goes, well, I think that you Jedi would have much more respect for the difference between knowledge and wisdom.
No, you said it wrong. He said knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's...
Subtle point, yeah.
But no, it's a good point. I mean, you would think the Jedi would tend to focus way more, or I guess really know the difference between them. And this is where it kind of shows the Jedi's hubris and how they're kind of way more failed than Obi-Wan makes him sound in A New Hope.
All right, so enough about Dexter's diner, and Dex's mustache and all that. Let's talk about Anakin and Padme and their torrid love affair in the lake country of Naboo, which is Alice, like you were saying earlier, is very. I think those, at least I think those are the shots you're talking about. There's a couple of vista shots when they're out picnicking and frolicking through that meadow of butt cows and stuff. Very scenic and picturesque. So I don't know. When you're talking about visuals and stuff, I don't know, that's just what I think of is all that, and which is it's great that they've got that backdrop because the dialogue is interesting for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's all beautiful, and I wish someone would make me all of Padme's outfits from Naboo.
She has one cool thing, that is one thing I've heard about the whole idea with her costuming. In the first one, they said we want to have she was gonna have I think originally 2 or 3 outfits, and they're like, no, let's have her change outfits in every single scene. So
they're think bigger. We need 60 outfits.
Yeah, and it's funny because the dresses and stuff that she wears in the Lake Country, they are a little more flowy and a little less concealing, I don't know, rigid and all that stuff. The stuff that she wears on Coruscant and when she's queen. But I don't know. I also do not wear dresses and stuff, so I don't really know which one I would really like.
Yeah, I'd have to give it some thought in terms of what would I want to wear if I was in Lake Como, Italy, where they shot all these very beautiful scenes on the terrace and things like that. It's fucking gorgeous, but I don't know. It just sounds hot, so I'm not sure.
I really kind of like how, they talk in this scene, and she makes it very clear, like, if we're going to do this, it's got to be private, and we actually can't do this. This is not going to work, because this idea of love for them, in the positions, it's not possible. And he says one line that I love. He says, if my heart is beating, actually, I kind of need to go back real quick. He does say this line. He says, my heart is beating open, hoping that this kiss does not become a scar, which I think is really kind of a cool line.
I think there was a Hawthorne Heights song like that whenever I was in high school or something.
Well, I think it's a cool line because, literally, this love, not only does it, give him a scar emotionally, but by God, he he gets caught on fire and scarred up all over the place, loses his arm and legs over this love, And I think it's kind of a oddly strange line, and I'm kind of glad George wrote it that way. And then this one thing I want
good foreshadowing.
Yeah, it is. It really is beautiful foreshadowing. And he says this other line to Padme: "If you are suffering as much as I am, please tell me." And I didn't make this connection till just now, and when I was watching it yesterday, how Yoda used the line, pain leads to hate. Pain leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. Does he hate that he feels this way?
Well, he does say he wishes that he could wish his feelings away.
Does he hate it? Do you think
I don't know.
Do you think the fact that he dwells so much on Padme is like maybe some sort of subtle Palpatine manipulation? Is everything Palpatine manipulation? Like, what do y'all think? It's weird. He says he hates it. He does not like that he has to feel this way, but he does.
I think he hates it because the Jedi are so stringent at this point, and their rules are so hard set. But he knows love and an affectionate relationship because he was with his mother 9 years, and as soon as he left his mother, Padme, in a weird way, kind of became the substitute for that immediately when he left Tatooine on the ship, and he gave her the Japor snippet. So I think it's more him fighting the rules than fighting his true self for that. Because he knows it shouldn't be, and it could get him kicked out of the Jedi, or it would get him kicked out of the Jedi Order. But, he said he's thought about her every day since they left. He made a point when he was on Coruscant at the age of 9 to say goodbye to her, or was trying to say goodbye to her. So she kind of, this sounds so gross, kind of replaced that mother figure in his life as soon as he left. There's this really funny, there's a Reddit sub called Pad Memes. And one of the scenes is from Phantom Menace, where he's like, "Are you an angel?" I'm about to use my one F-bomb. Are you ready? Go. It says, "Are you an angel?" And then underneath Padme, it says, "I'm going to f*** that kid."
I think I've seen that one. Oh, that's so great. Oh, man.
Somehow explaining memes just is such a strange concept. It's just something that has to be seen.
Right.
You can't, it's like trying to explain it to your grandma. Like, it's a meme, Grandma.
It's a meme? What is it?
A meme, what?
Anytime you explain a meme, it just sounds like
gosh.
you're trying to explain it to an old person.
So what you're essentially saying, Alice, is that Anakin Skywalker is the Buster Bluth of the Star Wars. I don't know if you guys watch. I'm making a lot of Arrested Development.
I'm impressed.
I'm here for it. I don't mind.
Dude, I friggin' love Arrested Development. Like, it's like he even when he goes and gets a girlfriend, it's someone who has the same name as his mom, and like can make him soup and stuff. That's totally Anakin in a nutshell. So there you go.
Well, so I guess after that whole transaction of awkward moments that evening, and they don't kiss, nothing really comes of it, and they kind of walk away. One thing I thought was very interesting is when he has that horrible dream about his mom and he wakes up, and it's a very interesting visual parallel that I didn't think about until watching it. He has his hands behind his back and he's looking out looking at the lakefront or whatever, and it's almost shot for shot what Vader looks like, his legs and everything, when he's staring off the bow of a Star Destroyer. And I'm like, damn.
Holy crap.
I was like, dude, like, I never thought about that. Like, that really is how Vader would stand, with his hands behind his back, looking straight forward, with his legs kind of like at a, shoulder position, really, like where his shoulders would be. It's very, it's kind of a interesting thing. And he's like just contemplating, looking straight forward. And,
I never thought about that. That's a good catch. I know that they parallel that shot in The Last Jedi with
Yes.
Kylo Ren looking into the hangar.
Oh,
But yeah,
yeah.
I never gave that much thought that it's paralleled with Vader as well. That's really cool.
It was one.
Dang. See, now I'm the gif of that one dude, like, sitting back, like, looking like
Well,
like,
it's weird because
you guys are blowing my mind.
well, whenever he, Padme confronts him, it's like, I need to go see my mom. I'm sorry, I have to leave you and it's my mom, and I got to go find her or whatever. I got to make sure she's okay. And Padme's like, no, we're gonna go do it. It's not just me. I'm gonna come with you. And I thought that was actually kind of, instead of it being more of an awkward love discussion, it's more of a symbolism of love there. Like, no, I'm gonna be with you for this. It's not as awkward as the my heart is bursting for the kiss that I shouldn't have committed, or whatever he says. But it's more of a
I shouldn't have committed.
it's way more of like what love really is. Like in the real world, love isn't to me. Love is not a discussion. Love is definitely the small things you do for someone, and the fact that she wants to be a part of this journey with him to go find his mom that's love right there. And that's where you kind of, Anakin doesn't see it, but I think as an audience, it's been real like, okay, yeah, I really do think that she does love him,
Well, also, so at this point, she, we saw in the Clone Wars that she did travel to a lot of planets. She's been a senator, now that we know from Queen Shadow, she's been a senator for, for like 6 years or something. And it could be that she hasn't done much travel at all, and Tatooine is somewhere that she has actually been and is familiar with. And on top of that, she has met Shmi.
That's true.
And, knows her to a degree. So it really could be that, it's not necessarily a strong love for Anakin, even though we know that, she tells him she loves him or whatever. But it could be like, okay, I see he's in pain. He needs help. I care about him to an extent. It's somewhere I've been before and I'm comfortable being around. So why not?
Good point. I guess to me, if we're going to directly think about the love aspect, that is true. It's more familiarity for her. And that's the same place where she met him. So I guess if she's going to go with anyone to Tatooine in mind, it should be Anakin. He knows his way around the planet, and this is where it gets interesting. But before we get to Tatooine, I want to jump back to what Obi-Wan's going through. And Obi-Wan here during these moments is arriving to Kamino, and this is where like some of my favorite plot points come in. And he walks in and Obi, we were beginning to think you were going to show up, The Kaminoan says that y'all are so much better with names. Tanwi, that's it. I thought that was very kind of, he says, as a viewer, you had the same exact reaction as Obi-Wan. You're like, oh, were you? and one thing I didn't realize until watching it, not only is he trying to just talk his way through the situation, the Kaminoans don't give a single crap. Like, they're just like, oh yeah, we got this for you. Hope you like it. It's like, we've been working on it for like 10 years. Come check it out. And this shot of them like observing these clones kind of paints, they're like, oh, they're much better than droids, but like you're treating them kind of like droids. Like you're not down there in there, with them. And of course, the Clone Wars really fleshes that out. And I think it's actually kind of a beautiful thing that they show it in this movie, and it's really much more, I guess, discussed and seen in the actual TV show. But one thing I never realized, and it took me a little while to kind of make this realization, but the cloning facility, shot for shot, and like how it kind of looks and feels is exactly like the droid factory scene, right? It's like it's from above looking down, and it's almost weird because it's making this same exact comparison of like these are both armies being built, but regardless if one's like more human, it's still for like this giant war machine. It's for the cause of war. And humanity really doesn't exist when it comes to war. It's more about who's going to be the more triumphant during this clone war. And that's a lot of the repercussions and a lot of what the clones suffer from is this identity issue, which I wish we could get into in this episode. But if we only did a Clone Wars recap, maybe we will whenever the new season comes out. Jerry and I might be our big next endeavor, Jerry. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. Oh man, here we go. Don't book it yet, folks. We'll see. No. You're good. The one thing I wrote down for Camino, I'm just now noticing on my notes is Camino, please take a spoon. Their chairs are like spoons. It's like a ladle comes down from the ceiling, and I've always thought that since I was a kid. Just Obi-Wan doesn't even question. Just like spoon that you sit in comes from the ceiling and is like, here, have a seat. Okay. Like, I don't know.
Have a ladle.
Yeah, have a ladle, please. Take a ladle off.
No soup for you.
Yeah, no soup for you. There you go. But anyway, yeah, so there you go. There's my hard-hitting take.
Well, what do y'all think of that? Like the fact that the Kaminoans were building this thing, and it's just the timing is so bizarre, and I know a lot of it had to do with Sifo Dyas, but how much of that was really more Palpatine than Sifo Dyas? I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, I think it started with Sidious, but I hate to pull in Plagueis, but it really started with Dooku. Yeah. And in Plagueis, we had Dooku, Sifo Dyas, and Qui-Gon were all in the room discussing a clone army way before. So it was Dooku's actions through Palps or ultimately, and I wish I recalled the Sifo Dyas arc in the Clone Wars show.
I don't remember it either. I was thinking about it literally today.
Yeah. I think he got shot down, or he was ordered to be shot down by, I believe, Dooku. And then Dooku kind of took his place. It was the whole gist of it because they went on this big roundabout search for like that aide for Chancellor Valorum with him that like went missing and all that. And there was, I don't know, go and watch those, that arc. I think that's just a single episode that begins like the Yoda arc.
Yeah. And, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe Sifo Dyas was actually a typo in the script, and it was supposed to say Sidious.
It was supposed to be Sidious, yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
So it doesn't really hold much bearing, I don't think. But obviously Dooku knew about it because, they said Jango was like, Lord Tyrannus is the one who found me and whatever. But that's really kind of all there is to it, I guess.
Yeah, no, there really is. Like, I think it was all him. And here's my big takeaway from that too is why did they not use the Darth Tyrannus moniker more in those movies? Because I feel like I heard it once.
Yeah.
And then like it went away, and that's such a freaking cool such
a cool name.
Darth Tyrannus.
Yeah, I mean he had to stay hidden.
really confusing for like general audiences too. It's like, how many names do each of these characters have?
Right.
Jesus.
Well,
And it's confusing for me. I mean, the whole Sifo Dyas Dooku, like the Sidious plot, like it was just like one of the more recent times that I watched this movie that I was like texting Alice on the way to the train, and I was like, I still don't understand what role Sifo Dyas actually played in any of this, or if he played a role at all. It's just because then after I read Dooku Jedi Lost, I was like, now I'm even more confused about who this character was.
It was still lost. We were all still lost after Jedi Lost. I was hoping that would fill in a lot more of like that kind of thing, but it stopped kind of right after he leaves the Order and all that. Spoilers for Dooku Jedi Lost, but no.
Yeah, I mean, also when Obi-Wan is talking to Yoda, he was like, I was under the impression Sifo Dyas died before that 10 years. So it could have been, Dooku or someone, or it could have been Palps, like posing as him, who first started the ordering. And then it was like, hey, Dooku, deal with it. I don't care. Or I do care, but I need to kind of chill for a bit.
Whose credit card did they use? That's all I'm asking. I mean, that has to cost a lot of freaking money. Like, is it just like a count like that? That's just can
Dude,
be.
he's got like, he got control of the banks, I guess, in Clone Wars. But I don't know. You've got to. Palps has some pretty deep pockets, man.
Well, the banking clan was also part of the Separatists.
Yeah, that's right.
It's interesting. This is where the Palpatine thing becomes way deeper, and like the fact that he's playing both sides of the war, and and this is a big conversation I want to have at the end of this whole discussion. It's just, dealing with Dooku. How much was he really aware at that point? But it's weird because you can see that Palpatine's influence in the whole story, even though it's not as upfront as the whole Darth Sidious thing in The Phantom Menace, it's definitely 100% still there in this movie. And I really kind of like that aspect. I like that Palpatine's still playing the cards in this, and he really doesn't take a break. That dude's always working. He's always got something up his sleeve. And I guess that brings you to another good point with Palpatine. During this sequence, when they show the clone army for the first time, it does not play what people would assume is, maybe the Imperial March. It actually plays the march from The Phantom Menace when they show the droid army about to attack the Gungans. I forget the name of that song, but it plays that song instead. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's just for emphasis or if it's a cool song to use there, but I think it might be intentional just to show like this is a machine way more than it is an actual, bunch of clones, quote unquote, and I wish I knew the name of the song, but they play that one instead. So I don't know. I think it's kind of an odd song choice, but I think there's a lot more to it than just a song choice.
I didn't notice. Good to know.
Yeah, it's odd. It's definitely not what you would expect, because of course they do the Imperial theme way later in the movie when Palpatine's looking over them, but when it's Obi-Wan looking over them, it's not that. And then we get to this next part where Jango meets Obi-Wan, and it's a really kind of awkward conversation, and it's two people wanting to know so much about each other without saying any word at all.
Well, it's like two people pretending like they don't know anything about the other person.
Exactly.
I totally know who you are.
Yes.
Like, you totally just told your kid to go close the closet so I don't see your friggin' bounty hunter armor. I mean, come on. Jedi, what do you think?
And during the sequence, it cuts back and forth a lot between this and then Anakin and Padme, which to me is kind of jarring. I mean, that's like maybe the only thing I really don't like about this movie. It's like when I was writing my notes, I was like, oh my God, I can't keep up. Like
you have to have like a table going with like jumping back and forth.
I did. I was going from show note to show note, like trying to like make this make sense, and it was so hard. But whenever we have the whole sequence of Obi-Wan and Jango having that little fight they do out on the platform, it's really weird to think, and like it's kind of one of those like kind of like I say the word baked. It's kind of like, whoa, man. Things like, whoa, is whenever it's weird to think Boba Fett shot something at Obi-Wan at one point. Like they had like a quarrel, like he shot like the Slave One's lasers at Obi-Wan. If you think about it from an original trilogy perspective, it's kind of It's just kind of funny.
It's a bit of a mind warp.
Yeah. It's like this dude in the
Definitely a great movie to get high to.
Yeah. Let's get stoned and
Well,
watch Attack of the
you
Clones.
notice before we did talking about connections to the original trilogy with like that scene and all that too. You notice that before they kind of retconned it, and not retcon, in new canon, like the stormtroopers are like civilians that are like, like kind of recruited into the military, and they've kind of phased out the clones. But back then they're like, oh, this is where the stormtroopers come from, and so they put like when Jango is going inside the slave one after the like escaping after the fight, he bumps his head on the door and he's going in.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot
Just
about
a subtle nod at that dude who like totally like beefs it on the door in A New Hope. So
nice.
And that's like I trying to remember exactly who it was that was talking about that, but I don't know if it was like Rob Breadrow, Scotty that we listened to, or I don't know, someone. I heard someone bigger at Lucasfilm go like, no, that's intentional.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have no idea. I guess before we move on, I want to ask y'all, do y'all like Jango Fett? Is there anything about, do you like him more than Boba? Is there a Boba Jango thing that any of y'all have right now?
Or are they both overrated?
Oh.
Well, Jango also gets his hand chopped off. What I think is most impressive about him is his head gets chopped off, but it doesn't fall out of the helmet when Boba picks it up.
Yeah. Well,
must have been a pretty snug helmet.
Yeah. Right?
Well, those Mandalorian helmets, they really like to, you got to have them hugging around your head. Otherwise, it doesn't really do anything for you. No, actually, that's the opposite, isn't it? I don't know. I sports ball. I played that. No. I'm gonna ruin it for you. I think that you, if you watch it again, there's kind of like this shadowy thing. I think the head bounces out when it bounces. Just watch that scene again where like he cuts his head off and the head there's the shot of the head bouncing, something flies off. It's like so fast you can hardly tell, but I'm pretty sure it's the head. Otherwise, that was, maybe he was like biting on something, and the helmet just stayed in there, so who knows.
Boba Fett was like traumatized. No, personally, I think Alice and I are both of the same mind that Boba Fett is highly overrated.
Yeah.
I don't personally have any strong feelings about Jango either. But I do think it's kind of funny that Boba has a sort of weird scream whisper in this movie when they're following Obi-Wan through the through the orbit of Geonosis. He's like, "Get him, Dad! Fire!"
Dang.
Why are you whispering?
Like,
you can.
I can't talk too loud, or Dad will get on to me.
They're like, quiet on set.
Somebody was like, quiet.
And
Exactly.
he's like, oh,
He's
shit.
like, they said to be quiet.
My favorite is whenever they first, like, he answers the door and he yells back, "Dad, Tonwee's here." Stuff like. It's my favorite little Boba dialogue.
Yeah, it's weird. He's got some weird line deliveries, and it was the whole thing with bringing Boba Fett into it felt very forced for me. But that's the least of my worries when it comes to this movie.
He had a much better arc in the Clone Wars.
Yes,
for sure.
way more fleshed out.
That kid, like, oh man, yeah, they did some really cool stuff with his character in there.
Well, I agree with the both of you. I guess all three of you. To me, Boba Fett's far more overrated. Jango Fett, you actually see some pretty decent action from him, and he kind of holds his own. And he kills a Jedi, so I think it's pretty cool. And the Bounty Hunter game really sold me for Jango Fett too. A very cool character. So I'm looking forward to an actual Mandalorian donning a Mandalorian uniform coming out in 2 weeks from today. But that's a different story.
Shooting stormtroopers point blank in the face.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait.
There's a Sabine Wren right there, actually.
But
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. I'm looking forward to it too.
That's gonna be amazing. I guess when this episode airs, it's only gonna be a week away. Oh my god!
Holy cow!
Oh my god! My stomach just turned in a good way. Whenever they leave, I guess we can go from this point on all the way to Geonosis. But I want to kind of go back to, of course, the incredible Shmi death. Well, not incredibly good, but just that whole sequence to me is actually some amazing storytelling. But anyway, the chase of the asteroid field, love it. I think it's a great scene. Who you can't say that scene without mentioning the what's the name of them now? Seismic charges.
Seismic
Seismic
charges.
charges. Oh,
yeah.
dude.
I watched
One of my favorite sound effects ever. It's just,
Ben
so
Burt was
beautiful.
losing his mind in that damn Foley studio for that. I don't know how he made that noise, but it sounds like he just like blew into a tuba very hard, or like a bass trombone. I don't know. It's such a wicked cool sound. But I guess that to me that's the only thing you can get away from that scene. And Bulba's, yeah, get him, Dad. It's just like it's kind of South Parkish.
I always thought it was strange too until I like ended up headcanoning myself with it. Was Obi-Wan's just all of a sudden like, I know how to dodge these missiles. Jettison the spare part canisters, like because every ship has spare part canisters.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I guess he needs spare. I don't know. I got too inside my head with that. I used to be like, what the heck do you have just stuff that you can afford to like blow behind? If you get blown up, it's all gone anyway. So, oh well. I don't know. That always used to bug me for some reason.
But
It's just like a bunch of space junk.
it's kind of cool in a weird way. It's kind of Empire Strikes Back-y, with the just like them flying between asteroids and stuff, and they're not really moving. I guess they're not. I wouldn't say they're kind of like the asteroids in Empire, where they like are everywhere. They're just kind of consolidated to one chunk of the planet. So I think it's kind of cool. And when they arrived at Geonosis, the way the Slave One lands is very 2001: A Space Odyssey, like into the ground. I thought that was actually. I think that was stylized for like a reference to that, but maybe that's just me being a huge fan of that movie. I love everything on Geonosis, but I guess let's jump back. So Tatooine, we got Padme and Anakin arriving back, and they meet Watto and Watto, and they look through the records, and they find out that Shmi was purchased by a man named Clegg Lars. And I kind of like how they make him a little southern. He's like, well, not really. It's not really super southern, but like he's rough and gruff. And
Just a really gruff, like, I can't go out again until I heal.
wait, I wanted to bring that up. That is such a funny line. And Blast Points mentioned that too. It's like, heal, your leg is freaking gone.
Yeah, your leg's gone. You think it's not growing back, buddy. They were like, maybe it was just an open flesh wound still. So.
I wanted to ask y'all, do you think they did actually, you might even know being trivia supremes, do you think that they went back to the original set, or did they refinish the set from Tunisia, or is it just a different place in California now? Like, what was that?
They did go back to Tunisia, but I don't know if they were in the exact same place or if they did some rebuilding. I know that a lot of this stuff is still there because there are people that go there on like little tourist pilgrimages all the time to go see the old set and the old, homestead. So I think they did go back. I know that they went back to Tunisia. I just don't know exactly where they were.
Okay. It's just interesting because if it's not the most perfect recreated set, then I don't know. Besides the Falcon, I don't know what is. Like it looks like absolutely where everything should be. And I just love at this point, George is like, let's just throw so many visual storytellings here. And like I love that they throw in, the blue milk, and they throw in all these crazy little things and especially when they're eating, I guess they're sitting on the table and Clegg's telling them like, yeah, no, your mother's been gone for a month. And it's exactly, and I didn't think about it till watching it, it's exactly where Anakin was sitting. Where Luke was sitting in A New Hope. He's sitting in the same exact spot. So,
right.
And I think it's cool that he's talking to, Clegg about it. And to me, it's just one of those scenes like, you can tell Anakin really doesn't give a shit about Clegg, like at all. He's just like, "Where's my mom?" I'm trying.
He's like, this yucko thinks he can just marry my mom.
Exactly.
I'm not gonna call him dad. So.
But it's weird to think the 10 years that I guess was Anakin was raised by his mom. This man, 10 years that Anakin was away, pretty much or 5 years, however long the plot line was for that. He was with Shmi too. So it's like I don't know. I think it's very interesting because both these characters had a lot of time with just Shmi. Now, I know nothing can replace the relationship someone would have with their mother, but I mean, Clegg was there for her ups and downs as well, you know, and he must have bought her and kind of brought her out of her own miserable life. And there's one part where Watto says, yeah, like he even fed her. And I'm like, Jesus, like, well, it's awful. It's like, it makes me sad to think Shmi is one of the few characters in Star Wars that is just so like giving and caring, and I mean, her fate is just so sad, so sad.
Well, and in I was just listening through. I'd read Queen Shadow earlier in the year, but I was watching Star Wars Explains kind of breakdown of the Easter eggs. And one of the Easter eggs in there is when was it Sabe goes to Tatooine to try to find Shmi to free her. Like, she's going to free slaves, basically. She goes to the old homestead where they used to stay, the old house, like housing unit or whatever. And it makes mention of how there's a white sun carved on the doorframe.
Wow.
Where does that name White Sun sound familiar? But like, you know, Beru is it's her name, White Sun. And so they were kind of saying, like, you know, he kind of mentions like it really kind of implies that Beru was and her family were possibly like trying to free slaves too.
Wow.
So you know, Beru got a hold of her, and that's how she ended up meeting Klieg. So.
Damn. Wow. I didn't know that.
Boom.
That's beautiful. Huh. Yeah, no, I'm does anyone have anything to say about Shmi? I think Shmi is just an incredible character, and I hate that her fate was so sad. And it really kind of pretty much what drove Anakin to his ultimate darkness.
I kind of just feel bad for Pernilla August. I thought she was fantastic in The Phantom Menace, and then this was just such a nothing thing for her to be in this movie. And I was literally just watching this part right before we got started recording, and my sister was in the room and saw Shmi's death scene and literally just was like, ha. Like, just kind of, and I was like, I know, right? That's everybody in Star Wars. Great.
Yeah. It's a solid Star Wars death, but
yes.
I think Shmi, even though she was enslaved and, you know, had that chip in her head that makes you go boom if you try to escape, I mean, her housing was really nice seeming.
Yeah,
when,
it wasn't like slave
you know, she was
quarters
owned by
seeming.
Watto. She had like fresh food and shit. So I don't, you know, and we don't know what exactly her job was, but you know, I'd say it wasn't as awful as maybe you guys are picturing it. Sure, it's not great, but you know, based off of what the Lars homestead looks like and seeing what she had later in A New Hope, it's not really that different. She's just not in servitude of someone else.
Right. No, I think that, honestly, I kind of think that her death is one of the more tragic ones that we have on there, just because, like, I don't know, I was just watching it and just kind of, like, thinking about how, you know, she probably just thinks, I mean, she doesn't know what's happening. She's probably hallucinating, she thinks, you know, that Anakin is there, you know, but then you also think about how she never really gets to finish the "I love you." She's like,
brutal.
I love.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
love
like a
what?
solid Star Wars death, though.
Yeah,
you know, like Qui-Gon
absolutely.
has one. It's like your neck just jerks back because your head magically weighs 50 pounds more.
Yeah.
Padme's death is the same way. You know,
It's fantastic. Oh yeah.
Exactly. It is a perfect Star Wars death.
No, I'm with you, Alex. I'm with you.
Well, the one thing I think is beautiful is, you know, when he says, I'm going to go out and find her. And of course, when Anakin puts his mind on something, he's going to do it. And whenever he's driving and going across the sunset, to me, the symbolism of the sunset right now in Star Wars, and maybe it's a different interpretation, it's you determining your fate. And I think with that angry look in his eye, and he's on that speeder, and he's going, or is it a swoop bike? I don't know what it would be considered. But
The swoop.
it's the swoop, yeah. And he's going, you know, across these beautiful Tatooine land and the sun setting in the background, and Duel of Fates is playing, which is another interesting song choice. I don't know if they just stuck it there because it was good, but he's, piloting this thing, and then he talks to the Jawas, and the Jawas don't want him to go, and I thought that was cool. They threw 2 sandcrawlers in there. It felt very Ralph McQuarrie. That shot in particular was so cool, with the sun setting in the back. But when he gets to this place, and it's so sad. The sand people look. Of course, they seem to be more of an indigenous group, but I don't think, they mean it, to kill Padme as a thing for, their pleasure. I don't know. I don't know if they were getting out of Padme. I'm not Padme. Dang it, Shmi. I don't know if they were trying to get out of Shmi, but it's with her hanging there. I just can't imagine what she had gone through, and yeah, her death is, of course, ultimately what drives Anakin to the dark side. And there's one quote I want to pull up. I have it written right here.
Now I am complete.
Yes, now I am complete. Okay, I want to hear your opinions on this, because it kind of just I felt like a giant slap to the face. Like, Scott, come on, dude, think about it. And I maybe I'm way too deep in thought when I wrote this, but it's weird to see this Skywalker, Anakin, have his mother die in his arms, much like Vader had, Luke had Vader die in his arms, just like Ben pretty much had Solo Han die in his arms. It's
too soon.
But no, it's but it's weird, like this thing of touch, and the Skywalkers having to they've watched all their parents pass before them is it hurts thinking about it. Just think about what Luke went through, and he didn't really have that much of a good relationship with his dad, just like Ben didn't have much of a relationship with Han. But Anakin and Shmi, they had an amazing relationship, and he had to let her go. He did what he was supposed to do. I want to know what y'all think of that. Do you think it's almost like a Skywalker's fate to have their parents die before them? Is it just a reoccurring thing for some reason?
I think it's everyone's fate to have their parents die before most people's fate, unfortunately, to have their parents die before them. But it's I don't know. It's one of those things with Shmi that just seems so useless and pointless to me, because you kind of touched on this. What was the point of them kidnapping her?
Yeah.
What did they want out of her? Were they going to eat her?
That's what I couldn't figure out.
Sand people eat humans? Was it a ransom thing? It just made no sense at all. There was no logic to it. So I don't know. That was really I think the most painful thing for me when it came to her death, was that it just seemed so senseless.
Yeah, and it's very senseless, and especially dealing with everything after this is probably the best storytelling in the Phantom Menace. But Alyce, what do you think of all that? Having these Skywalkers witness their parents die, and each one of them having very different reactions than the last two.
I never really thought too much about it, to be honest, and just kind of shitty circumstances. That's life.
Yeah.
It's certainly the life of a Skywalker. None of them have it very easy, particularly Anakin.
Yeah.
They're very tailor-made to be owned by Disney, though, because Disney really doesn't, that's the whole trope, is that all the parents of the Disney princesses and other characters die and everything.
Yeah.
So
good point. It's maybe it has something to do with just the character, not change of. I mean, Anakin's was for the worse. We know Vader's was for the better, and I think whatever Han, his sacrifice was, I think it was for and we can totally get into this later in the conversation, but maybe for the redemption of that character, and maybe what Han did was planting the seed of Ben's ultimate return to the light. It's just weird because after her death, of course, the music cue there is amazing, and he steps out and he, of course, kills a bunch of people. And I'm glad they didn't show it. I'm really very glad they didn't show it, because that would have just I think not showing it makes it much worse, way worse. And the kids stopping what they're doing, looking up. I'm like, oh God, it's horrible. That's pretty dark. That's not very I mean, it is Star Warsy, but it's because Anakin had to have that happen, you know.
I feel like I need to go watch like Frozen again or something.
Yeah.
Even though, oh no, I can't watch that because the parents die on a boat. Big Hero 6. Crap, the kid blows up in the building.
No good kids movie.
No.
But
The dream works.
after this happens, one interesting thing is you hear Qui-Gon yelling, Anakin, no. And it's when Yoda's meditating. And
Right.
I forgot about that till I watched it last night. I'm like, my God. I'm like, it's cool to think Qui-Gon's like observing his would have been Padawan from the Force realm or from the Cosmic Force or whatever, and is like telling him to stop. And of course Yoda wakes up and he's like, pain, suffering, death, I feel. Something terrible has happened. Young Skywalker is in pain, terrible pain. And to think Yoda's like in tune to Anakin, that was always very cool to me. Because it happens a lot. They talk about Anakin a lot as a student and as a Jedi and as a person. Him and Mace do. So I think it's kind of cool.
You got to keep tabs on him. They didn't really trust him at the time.
Maybe.
Or at least Mace didn't. Yeah.
But what do y'all think of that? Having Qui-Gon kind of touch back and maybe come back from this Force realm to persuade Anakin not to do it, I guess, or just scream in pain and sadness that is he's disappointed in his would-be apprentice.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really have any meaning until the Clone Wars
Yeah, that's the cool part.
show. So that's where that ties in. Otherwise, it to the general audience, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't.
She's like, hey, who was that? Like, did you guys hear that? Was that Liam Neeson?
Like, did they have to pay Liam Neeson for that? Because I'm like, most people probably didn't even realize that was him. So.
Exactly.
Well, I almost wonder, because it almost even just sounds like it's dropped in from Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
That does not, I'm sorry, that does not sound like him going, no! It sounds like they got Klieg Lars, the guy who played him.
I was going to say, it really doesn't sound like him. It is kind of strange. I've sort of wondered that, too, if they got a different person to dub it. I don't know.
Well, and I was like younger. I think I always used to think, oh, that was like a Tusken Raider going, no! Like, I couldn't fathom that was like Qui-Gon Jinn, but anyway.
Yeah.
Apparently.
One thing I wanted to bring back in after this whole slaughter happens, and and Anakin heads back home with his mother on the back of the swoop bike, and one thing I never thought about until watching it yesterday, I'm like, this is dark. The fact that Shmi is buried on the land that Anakin, that Luke grows up on. I don't know if those headstones are there or if like. Once Anakin, or Luke was, I keep saying the wrong name. Once Luke was old enough, they're like, let's kick these down. Or like,
The Skywalkers all run together after a while.
Like, what do you think of that? Like, the fact that...
Well, I don't know if I really think it was dark, but just to me, it's kind of a cool fact. Like,
it is.
It's kind of a cool connection that, like, Luke's like, well, here you go, Luke. Here's your grandma. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Just kind of like, I don't know, one of those things. Like, my family was very sentimental growing up. I mean, they still are very sentimental. But, like, we're always, like, I remember, like, going around and stuff and, like, this is your great, second, fourth cousin, twice removed. And not to be disrespectful to them, but it was just kind of like, all these distant relations and stuff. So you just think about, like, the connections that you have in, like, all these different places.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a very existential movie.
It is.
Towards the middle.
Definitely is. And, like, there's one thing that also didn't dawn on me until recently, and I think this is a really cool conversation point here. It's the scene where Padme and Anakin are, like, having that, like, you can tell Anakin knows he did something wrong and Padme's trying to comfort him. But that same room that they're in is the same exact room their children would meet, inevitably through Leia through hologram and Luke, being a resident of the homestead. It's kind of a very weird parallel that I never realized till watching it during this rewatch. It's like Padme and Anakin had a conversation about, that situation in the room, and then not 15, 25 years later, or whatever the timeline would be, 23 years later, their children are I guess, so, in a weird way, meeting in that room as well. It's weird. It's very weird. But
yeah, it is kind of trippy. I never thought about that either. That's interesting.
yeah, it's where they kind of like cemented their love. Not really cemented. Whoa, wait a minute. No, where they like established this this suffering that Anakin obviously did something wrong is the same place that Leia, was looking for the help of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's really kind of weird, and I love that Lucas kind of did some shot for shot stuff with that, and like same set pieces and everything. No Skyhopper, but same set pieces. I think it's really kind of cool. Yeah.
Well, the T-15s hadn't come out yet. So.
The T-15s haven't come out yet, but
yeah.
He says, I will be the most powerful Jedi ever. I will even learn how to stop people from dying. And he puts his anger towards Obi-Wan for limiting him, and he explains how he slaughters each one of them. And the theme that plays here is very interesting. It's Palpatine's theme, and it's the Imperial March theme. I don't know why.
Interesting.
I don't know why it's Palps, but it's.
I never really noticed but there is a little note of Palpatine's theme.
It's the beginning.
Or Augie's Municipal Band, as we all know, because of David W. Collins.
Yeah.
But no, that was very, and I know I was sitting in both of those movies just waiting for the Imperial March to drop, because it's just that's like that's the big hit, right? Okay, when he's gonna be Darth Vader, let's get some of that. But that was kind of a cool drop. I didn't really notice the Palps theme though. So
yeah, give it a whenever. Hopefully, people listening right now will be like, "Dang, I gotta put this movie on," because that's the goal of this. As our listeners, I want you to kind of go and like take everything we're saying here and kind of let it affect your own viewing of this movie, because it's interesting. There's some things to really be said about this in particular. It just shows like Anakin is way conflicted by his desires and this title of being a Jedi.
Well, one of the cool things I think that they've really it's one of the cooler threads I think they've started to pull in new canon too, is that Anakin is so obsessed with like cheating death and stuff. It's a big part of that Vader Immortal thing. It's a big part of the Vader comic, that last Vader comic that came out. I liked that one a little better than the one that was kind of parallel with the Star Wars series. But no, just everything about that is just kind of that's interesting, and I again kind of feels like they're setting up some stuff for later down a movie that might be coming out soon. Who knows? Don't want to get too crazy.
Who freaking knows? I didn't know they're making a movie. Wow, they're making a 9?
Yeah, there's a new Star Wars coming out. I don't know if you know this.
Ugh.
Here?
I may have heard of episode 9.
Yeah. Oh, is that? Oh, it's already on 9. Okay. Is Jyn Erso in this one?
Sounds like my dad asking me questions about Star Wars.
Yeah.
So is the girl from the movie with the time travel guy, is he in it? I'm like, oh my God, what are we even talking about?
So, one of the cool things about, you see there's like 2 times in this movie where Anakin and Padme have these interactions of Anakin's like, oh, I feel like I need to do this, or like, I know the first time when he's like out on that balcony and she says like, I need to go check on my mom, and she goes, like, well, I'll go with you. This time he's like, I don't need to go, and she's like, no, okay, it's a parsec away, we're going. So they go, and Obi-Wan's been captured by this point. One interesting thing on that is that Dooku straight up tells him like your plot.
It's so
like he
weird.
tells him like, hey, by the way, the Dark Lord of the Sith is in charge of the Republic and everything, and maybe you should join me. Like, I don't know, was he like really thinking about? I don't know. I think he was trying to mess with him, but it's just kind of interesting that the bad guy didn't mince any words. It was like, oh yeah, here's exactly what's going on, and you're probably not going to believe me. So,
Yeah, and
really
then it took them
ballsy.
3 years to figure it out.
Exactly.
Yep.
How insane! Like it's just it again. These movies really just highlight how inside their own heads the Jedi were. Like it really, like Luke says in Last Jedi. You know, like they had their hubris. Like it was what brought them down.
Well.
So. Hubris is just a fun word to say.
It is, and funny enough, there's this one quote from Yoda and this whole conversation between him and Mace that like totally parallel the same exact thing that they're talking about as well. He says, "Do not assume anything, Obi-Wan. Clear your mind must be in order for you to discover the real villains behind this plot. Blind we are. If creation of this clone army we could not see." And then Mace says, "I think it's time to inform the Senate that our ability to use the Force has diminished." And this is what Yoda says, I think is great. "Only the Dark Lord of the Sith knows of our weakness. If informed the Senate is, multiply our adversaries, we will." But it's crazy to think Palpatine already knows, and obviously Dooku's pretty aware of this too. You know what I mean? Like it's this. Why are you so worried about, that you're going to tell the Senate when the Senate's obviously already, not the Senate itself, but I mean, yeah, I guess it is the Senate. I am the Senate. Is very much aware of their failure to sense anything. So I think that's interesting. Yeah, and Dooku, he might have been a lot more aware than we give him credit for of everything that's happening, both sides of the war, and that's definitely paralleled in Revenge of the Sith. The look he gives Palpatine before he gets executed. That's something.
Wait, what? Yeah, he's like, huh?
He's like, kill him. He's like, wait, what?
You want him to do what? yeah, exactly. The classic bait and switch, old Palps, the Uncle Palps. Good for him.
Good for him.
No, dude, but okay, so then, Obi-Wan gets captured. He, calls for help. Anakin and Padme go try to help him. And then a crazy chase through this droid factory, which, like you were saying, is kind of the mirror of the clones.
Yeah.
Just one cool thing I think about that, or at least it's funny. I think I watched some of the behind the scenes on the DVD, and like they were just told they were running on a conveyor belt, like him and Hayden and Natalie, and they were just told like nothing they were dodging. They just said like, "Hey, pretend to jump over stuff and pretend to duck under stuff, and we'll just like color it in." So it's just kind of
Just a quick obstacle course.
Yeah.
Head on in.
Yeah, just like pretend like there's stuff to jump over. It's like, oh, okay.
It's like American Gladiators.
For real, like that would be so much fun, something like that.
I agree, and everything leading up to that's very cool, and especially before they get out there and they're having the little romance before the.
Before we get to the romance,
yeah.
I have to say that I'm completely 100% for R2D2's rocket legs, rocket legs.
Yeah, it served its purpose.
Sorry, yeah, it served the purpose, and it doesn't bother me at all that like why didn't he use his jets in this point? Okay, I don't know. He didn't. It was the 70s, man. Come on.
But yeah,
the love.
the love part whenever they before they go out and Padme finally kind of admits that she loves him, and I kind of love that, and like Alice was saying, the music for that part is just unbelievably good.
Across
This is where we get love pledge in the arena. I think in this scene where they're heading into the arena.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's an amazing track. It's so good.
And it's actually, to me, one of the most, and this sounds really, I guess, movie-ish, probably one of the most Hollywood-looking shots in all of Star Wars. Like, it kind of like they bleed the light into the frame, and then the camera kind of pans over their heads, and you get the shot of the whole Coliseum. It's pretty grand. And I did not know this, but all of those were miniatures pretty much. That whole set was a miniature set that they then put digital over it. So, fun fact.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a lot of miniatures in the prequels that we didn't know about. So
Yeah.
Backstreet Boys
Yes.
were almost movies.
Yes,
So.
during the sequence.
I
could've
thought it was
CG'd them.
NSYNC.
It's
Was it
in
sync?
sync.
Is it in
Yeah.
sync? Oh. Yeah.
Sure.
They ended up on the cutting room floor, unfortunately.
Oh, darn.
It was because it was George Lucas's daughter's favorite band at the time, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah. They said bye to NSYNC. Oh. Horrible. Anyway, so I love this whole auditorium, arena scene and everything. Like the whole that Obi-Wan has like the best quips. That whole thing. He's like, what are you doing here? You know, like he's like, well, we came to rescue you. It's just that look up at his chains and looks back at Anakin like, great job.
Yeah.
That's one of the best gifts ever.
She seems to be on top of things. Another great line too. Well,
His dad jokes are on point right there.
Well, and then
We have very sassy Obi-Wan in this movie.
yes, I agree.
I want to say sassy Obi-Wan is your favorite, is it not, Alice?
Everything Obi-Wan is my favorite
that's
except for the
true.
rat tail. Yep.
Rat tail, baby. Yes, indeed. How 90s was that? But whenever this scene happens, and I love that Newt Gunray's so like oddly like fixated on Padme getting killed the whole time. He's like, yes. He's like, no, she can't do that. Shoot her or something. I'm like, man, calm the hell down. Like, it's. I get that you've been trying to assassinate her and stuff, but I mean, it's gonna end up working out in your favor. But you're gonna get killed first. Now, with that being said, of course, all this happens. The Jedi ambush him, and we see Jango getting killed. And I really do love the grandness of this whole entire scene. It's really kind of awesome, and it's kind of what reminds me of the prequels. Like, you know, just all these Jedis are going this. It's just it's the only time that George could ever actually pull this off, and I love it. This is what the movie was building towards, like this one scene. And then it's like 30 more minutes of this scene, and I love the battle sequence and how they're shooting down all the trade-fed ships, which leads, you know, kind of quickly jumping over that whole sequence, but it leads into another cool point that was brought up earlier. I forget who brought it up. It was one of y'all in this conversation, but the Death Star plans just being thrown in is such a cool tie-in to the original trilogy. And it's not very forced at all.
Yeah, that was Alice that brought that up. I thought that felt really natural too. It was a really fun little tie-in that they were able to successfully and subtly bring in. I sometimes forget that it's even there.
Yeah, and
it's just such a cool like little detail that these like it's so Star Wars. It's so George Lucas that like these like Roman bug people who like go to the Coliseum for their fun. Are like they're droid builders, and they like are really technologically advanced actually and stuff. They also have bubble guns, so it's so many interesting little details with them. So and really weird.
And one thing I want to give credence to, it's like it's if they built the Death Star. I mean, I love that in Catalyst they give a ton of backstory to it. I don't know if y'all read that book before Rogue One came out. I actually did, and I actually really dug it. And what they did with Poggle the Lesser, which is my favorite Star Wars name, and kind of what we get with this Death Star plans, and it's cool to see, you know, Dooku hold it in his hands and that little thing, and just to think it's going to get passed down from all these people, and then Jin has him at one point. It's really kind of cool. I guess I haven't really thought that deeply about it, but the line, of course, later that Sidious says. In regards to it, as everything is going as planned, and I just I can eat it up. But it's cool because this is where, to me, this whole Anakin being solidified as Darth Vader comes in when he's fighting Dooku, and obviously Obi-Wan for some reason is kind of a wimp, and he gets like knocked out beginning of every fight with Dooku. I don't know what about Dooku, but Obi-Wan is just not good at dueling Dooku, and Anakin's a little bit better. And for Anakin to finally lose his arm and to see how that happened was some pretty good backstory that I don't know if it was super necessary, but it's kind of beautiful. It's kind of beautifully done. And, you know, if anyone to say anything about that, I just think that was cool how they threw that there in particular.
I do have to agree with you on the point of Obi-Wan not being quite up to snuff in this movie. I mean, it's like sorry, dude, do you remember fighting Darth Maul
That was
in the last
incredible.
movie? Do you remember how good you were like 10 years ago? Like, what happened?
You're fighting like an 80-year-old man right now, and you look like a little bitch. Like, let's be real.
Well, let's be honest. Growing a mullet takes a lot out of you.
It does.
Okay?
Apparently.
It really is just a pain. Well, it's just a hard process. Okay.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. I don't know from experience because I've never had one, but I hear.
Oh, sure, Jerry.
Yeah. No.
No,
Dude, that whole that was kind of interesting, but it also set like this precedent that like everyone now thinks that like a Skywalker or the main hero of the saga has to lose a limb.
no.
And lost one in the second movie, and Luke lost his in Empire Strikes Back, and so everyone was like, that's just funny. That's one of the criticisms here of Last Jedi too. Like, you didn't even lose anything.
Well,
Like,
there's one thing.
Never mind.
Thread that went around. I don't know if y'all had seen it, but it was like, this is the first time a Skywalker has like done the opposite of lose a hand. He kind of exposes his hand in this movie. I don't know if that means anything, but
whoa,
yeah,
that's deep.
Yeah, whenever he takes the glove off, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is kind of opposite of what happens. It's more of a coming to the light. Whereas especially for Anakin, this was his first sign of becoming more machine than man. And that's a cool line that of course Obi-Wan brings up at some point in the original trilogy. But yeah, no, I of course we see the Yoda sequence happen, and that's amazing and very unexpected. As a kid, absolutely in love with it. And apparently, listening to Blast Points, they mentioned how when they showed that literally at Celebration 2, and I couldn't imagine how freaking cool that would have been to see that whole scene at Celebration 2 before anyone else saw it.
And they said they even like trolled him, like it was Rick McCallum was up there and he's like, hey, have you guys seen the new Spider-Man movie yet? And stuff. And, like, cut it at the end of a Spider-Man trailer. And so I wish they kind of would do that still.
That would be
I think
amazing.
get down a peg sometimes, like at Celebration, just like have Rick McCallum come back up. Be like, hey, you guys seen this new coming out? You know, like that would be. I don't know. Like, I don't know. That just sounds like the Wild West.
It does. It sounds very
like
not
what the
synergy.
heck were those things even?
Not synergy at all. Like
back to Yoda, who was that whole sequence. I don't know. I just want to like listen to Rick McCallum talk about this. But no, he I don't know what that Yoda sequence is for some reason so controversial. I don't know what's everyone's like takes on Yoda. Like his hop fighting or whatever.
It is pretty jarring, I imagine, for people who are used to the Yoda puppet.
Yeah.
Just kind of sitting there and riding along on as a backpack.
Yeah.
I imagine it was pretty jarring at the time to see that. I don't personally have a huge problem with it, but I've got bigger bones to take with this movie, particularly.
Right.
But
it's like, you're really gonna pick the Yoda bone? Okay, all right.
It's like, oh, yeah. that's where we're gonna land. Okay, yeah, no, I didn't have a problem with it. It was sort of interesting. I just would have loved to have been a fly on the wall when they were shooting this,
yes.
like with Christopher Lee. It's like, what exactly did this look like? Where there was a puppet bouncing around. I'm like, do you think they used a flashlight and he was supposed to act like a cat swatting at the flashlight?
So for this one, they didn't use a puppet, and most of Christopher Lee's actions was someone else,
yeah.
and they like photoshopped his face on the stunt double. But from my friends, I saw Attack of the Clones in theaters. Like they've re-released it several times. Yeah. Since then, I think they did I think for all the movies, they did like a 2-week 3D run of them.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember my friends when they first saw it at the original release, that was all they could talk about. They were like, oh my God, that Yoda scene, it's so cool, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, that was like the moment for them from the whole movie, and that was their takeaway.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to see Yoda like that to me, because all we've seen is OT, like, kind of senile wackadoo, you know, and then he's just kind of like plopping around in Phantom Menace saying a few lines, and then here we see that like he has crazy amounts of power and can use it when he wants to. And that,
Right.
Also leads into when he's fighting Palps in Revenge of the Sith.
So good. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't even talk about that. But you bring up a good point. Like, he must have this ability to, like, concentrate his power. He's not a weak, feeble man. That might be his ploy. That might be his thing. He might portray himself that way, and then when it comes to combat, he'll deliver, He will not hold back. So, I love that. That's really cool. Yeah,
No, well, dude, the Yoda thing, like, I love that thing, and I will say, for my being there in the theater, then, like, again, I think I said it earlier in the episode, though, but, like, everyone was, like, cheering and was, like, on their feet whenever that happened. Like, it was so super, it was, like, the best thing ever. We'd always, like, we'd never seen Yoda with a lightsaber. Anyway, so, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
just get over it, guys. There's other things.
I guess to kind of close out this chunk of this entire discussion, we've got the battle ends, but the war has just begun, and I love this quote so much from him, and he says, this is just the beginning. The Yoda theme is actually playing whenever it's like a really weird version of the Yoda theme when he's holding the that thing above his head. It's very weird.
Very bombastic.
Yes, it's not a very happy Yoda theme. It's kind of dark. And then when they get back to the council and that was a victory. I think Obi-Wan says it, and he goes, "Victory, victory, you say, Master Obi-Wan? Not a victory. The shroud of darkness has fallen. Begun the Clone Wars has." And then it shows the shot of Palpatine looking over, and Jerry, here comes your Imperial March, man. It is huge.
Dude, I love it. But what I love even more than that is Organa and Jimmy Smith's, like, small balcony punch. They're just like that man knows how to punch a balcony and make me.
To me, the coolest ending is, of course, another kind of sunset ending, and of course, we've got Anakin, marrying Padme, and it's cool to think the people that were there were C-3PO and R2, and I'm sure that's one thing that we might even hear about in the Rise of Skywalker. I don't know, dealing with C-3PO's memories, and maybe even R2 having anything involved. But I wrote right here, and I want to know what y'all think before we close this whole sucker out. The robot hand, do you think it symbolized his turn, and like his future being determined, like, through this hidden and secret love, and like how the hand is kind of a symbol of, like, what he is to become, and this love is no better than that? Because it only makes his demise worse, and he holds Padme.
No.
You don't think so?
It's just a robot hand.
Okay.
Like, arm gets chopped off, and that's how you fix it.
Yeah, there you go.
I have a whole
He
thing
just
where
think it looks super cool,
I do think the hand actually looks really cool. I agree with
does.
that. But I do have to. I'm not sure if it means. I'm sure it is supposed to symbolize his, like, sort of turn into being more of a machine. That makes total sense. But I have to say that they really do utilize it so well in the Clone Wars, just ever so slightly, where every once in a while they go full magnetize, and he'll, like, fly up and have his right arm stuck to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh every single time. I think it's hilarious. It just makes me so happy. I wish that they would have thought to do something like that in Revenge of the Sith, but that's fine. As long as I get it in the Clone Wars, it works out better in cartoon form anyway.
Yeah.
Totally.
No, the episode 2 where, like, I think he's fighting Rush Clovis in, like, the Lost season or whatever, and, like, he punches his fist or something and goes like,
yes.
yeah. Anyway.
Well, that was amazing.
Great robot hand action.
Yeah, no, I like its gold too. It's kind of cool. It's kind of a beautiful part. And then, of course, they look off into the sunset and they become married, and that's how that movie closes out. And I don't know. There's one things that I want to get into before we close this whole puppy down. But Jerry, I don't know if you think that this might be a touchy topic to bring up, but I feel like it should be brought up. We've seen in the sequel trilogy there might be some aspects of love occurring. Do you think they'll ever really dive into the notions of romance? Not like this movie, but dive into the notions between Rey and Kylo at any point? I don't know if anyone ships that or if anyone has a strong opinion of that. I really don't know, to be honest with you. I've never really voiced my opinions on this publicly.
I am not a romantic, but like I don't know if I go for romantic Raylo, but in the sense that from what I've heard other people talk about it, that it's just kind of like some people just talk about Raylo and that it's their connection,
Companionship, maybe.
Well, just their connection as characters. They are like Ryan Johnson said, two halves of the same protagonist.
Yeah.
The light and the dark like incarnate almost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really now want to see a scene though where Kylo tries to go to Rey and is like super awkward like all the other Skywalker men. You know, like, I really, truly, deeply love you.
Except for Han.
I wish I could wish my feelings away. But, anyway, yeah.
How dare you wish that upon what will inevitably be a very good movie? How dare you?
I'm sorry, Laura. No, but how awesome, like Adam Driver delivering those same lines. I always like kind of go back with the love lines and think about like George Lucas, a middle-aged white male who eats Hershey bars and drinks Diet Coke all the time, was like, this is what I think it sounds romantic. And I just imagine George saying those lines. Like, I truly, deeply love you. You're my very soul, Armin.
Oh, Jesus.
So, anyway, I don't know.
I don't think Alyce has any strong feelings about Raylo. I might have a little bit stronger leaning on it than she does, but I'm pretty indifferent to it for the most part. I would probably, if I had to pick a side, I would probably go pro Raylo, but in a more casual way.
Yeah, like, that's kind of where
like
I
a
lean.
platonic.
Well, I'm not necessarily
a platonic respect.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily like wishing for a platonic, but I'm just, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to ruin the movie for me. So it's a little more casual feelings on my end.
Totally.
Right.
I'm the same boat. It's like something I've given thought to, but to ever like really talk about it publicly has been something I want to wait till after the movie to do. Like really like dive into that, because there is definitely something there that is much stronger than almost any other relation, almost stronger than this one between Anakin and Padme, because it's like, it's not, the word love has so many different meanings, but they do have this weird like connection together that almost can only be explained with using, words that aren't love. It doesn't make any sense. Like you don't want to use the word love, but you want to use words that might be affiliated with it, because it's Kylo and Rey.
It's just just very connected.
Yeah.
There's a connection there.
There definitely is. And one thing I want to bring up before we close, that's on a much lighter note. Do you think 3PO and R2 might have very similar scenes in this movie, like in The Rise of Skywalker, like how they had the scenes of them like kind of bickering back and forth? If they happen to wipe his memory in The Rise of Skywalker, do you think any of this could be referenced? I just think it's a weird thing, but I want to know what y'all would think of that. Will anything be referenced from 3PO simply because his mind is maybe wiped based on what we saw in the trailer?
Or had his memory restored.
Yeah, or restored. Exactly.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of interesting if if they restored his memory and he's just like remembering like all the crappy things R2 has done to him, and he's like, wait a second, you let me just fall, you drug my head around a stadium, like I don't know. It's probably not gonna be brought up, but I don't know. I think we might get some. There's some good parallels for them they have pretty much very similar scenes throughout all the films.
They do.
They just kind of them in different locations usually.
Definitely. I think people have missed it. What about y'all? What do you think, Alyce?
So I think that what we saw in that trailer is a total fake out.
Oh,
and what I think that memory disk is something that perhaps Captain Antilles, who was requested by Bale to wipe 3PO's memory, I think maybe it's a copy of that. And when he says goodbye to his friends, he wants one last look at his previous life. Whether
nice.
he gets something from it or not, I don't know. There could have been something during the Clone Wars that Padme told him that Anakin had told her. I don't know, but I think from the inflection in Poe's voice, it doesn't sound like they're really concerned about him dying, if you
Yes.
will. So I don't know. We'll see.
Cool. Excellent. I had not thought about it from that perspective. I kind of gave me new light. Excellent. I love that. Laura, what do you think?
I don't really have anything to add. I'm not totally sure. The whole thing that in the trailers with 3PO has just sort of left me mystified.
Me too.
I can't even begin to kind of guess what's going on there, and I imagine that anything we guess or anything that I guess is going to be wrong anyway. So I'm curious to see where it goes. But yeah, I don't have a clue. It's a bizarre thing, but I am happy that 3PO is getting a little bit of action, it looks like, in this next movie. We really haven't gotten a lot of 3PO in the sequel trilogy, so I'm just kind of happy for Anthony Daniels that he's getting to, like, do stuff. Like, good for him, you know?
Very happy
Finally
for him.
he's getting his shot.
He's doing something better than like a cereal commercial, which he would also do as C-3PO, just because that guy will not let anyone else be C-3PO.
Nope.
So that's so awesome for good for him because he deserves it. The final hurrah.
He definitely does. But I want to say one thing. We can't thank y'all enough for being here. This has been an absolute pleasure having y'all. Seriously.
Thanks for having us. This is Alice's favorite movie, so she was very excited to come and chat about it. I was, it's not my favorite movie, so I was excited to come hang out with you guys, but not necessarily for the movie.
Yeah. It's my favorite movie, and I have learned and heard some new things, so that's been fun.
Well, I'm so happy that maybe doing something like this would get, not just for our guests, but for our listeners to get something out of it is just that's fantastic. And we love y'all's work, and hopefully maybe after the Rise of Skywalker and things are way less tense, and the only thing coming out to Clone Wars, we can have another one of these and maybe be on y'all's show or something, because this has been really wonderful. Seriously.
Yeah, this has been fun. I think January is going to be quiet.
Yes,
I'm hoping.
thank God.
I'm looking forward to that personally too. So yeah, thank you for having us.
Of course.
Totally.
Jerry, you want to praise the guests anymore, because I've been smitten with them the whole time, and I just love it. That was really awesome.
Oh, thanks.
I think you pretty much said, yeah, you guys are okay. No.
We'll take it.
Yes. All right. Take it to the bank. No, so we'll just go ahead and tell the Bombad people out there where they can find you guys.
Sure. There's a long list of all the places you can find our show at forcetoastpod.com. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and many, many more. We have a really fun interactive audience on Twitter, so join us at ForceToastPod. I'm Laura, and I'm on Twitter at @shutup_Laura, and Alice is my co-host. She is at Slaya all day.
Yes, indeed. Dang, that's like way better than our plugs. Jerry and I always like, we got a Twitter.
It's like a trope of our show that we never plug anything. So.
And we forget how to
So
plug.
we're like, oh yeah, afterthought. So.
Man.
We've had almost a year of practice.
Exactly.
So, and it's always Laura, because she's better at talking than I am by the end of a show.
Right.
Because I drink too much, and she's got it nailed down.
Well, excellent. But
It does just kind of flow.
hopefully at the year mark we will be at the same I guess skill as you, because that was like unbelievably improve.
I thought that was a recording you actually.
Exactly. But you just pulled your phone out. I was like, let me get this
Sounds
queued
just
up.
like the show.
Oh, I'm a robot at this point, so it may have been.
It just all kind of comes out. Yeah.
Everyone listening right now, thank you so much for joining. I'm Scotty J-Ro. Of course, you can find me at the Scott J-Ro on the wonderful Twitterverse, where I'm constantly retweeting things, especially the Mandalorian trailer. The B-2 battle droids. Speaking of Attack of the Clones, they showed up. But anyway, you can find me there. Follow the Bombadcast. Make sure, if you want some swag, we've got T-shirts out now, and we are so excited. We've got a bunch of orders in place, so we're excited to see you start repping our gear that we don't know who ordered. I know I ordered a couple. I know Jerry ordered a couple. Jerry's family did, but we got some other mystery orders. We're like, wait a minute, who's buying these things up? But
People actually want to buy stuff. No, I will, like, kudos to. I don't know. I will give mad respect. I almost want to just like whoever goes and orders the most random piece of merchandise on there that you can slap our face on. Like there's pillows, there's mugs, there's like phone cases. There are tapestries. I forgot about. There's wall art.
Yes.
So if you want to go slap me, Scotty, and Jar Jar's face on something, go do it. And the weirder the better. Just send pictures. But go check out our TeePublic store and follow us at Bombadcast. And as always, we are still hanging out with all the folks in the old folks home on Facebook. And our Facebook group, the Bombad, Bombad Fam, a Bombadcast official group. So go over there. We kind of do some special things on there with our followers. And then follow me. Oh, yeah. I also have to plug myself. Follow me at Canon Junkie, at the Canon Junkie on Twitter. And just get ready for some junk on there for sure.
Before we close this out, we got to plug our next episode. Our next episode is going to be our coverage of Revenge of the Sith. We have a very good friend of mine who Jerry and obviously someone I've known for a while, but Jerry got to meet when we were at Celebration, my good friend and a man I've written a movie with and starred in a couple of his movies. Eric Cotterman will be on the show, and not many of you have heard his voice, but this dude is a next level Star Wars fan, and he is genuinely obsessed with Revenge of the Sith. So hope everyone can join us for that next Bombad build-up episode. But one last time, thank y'all so much, Force Toast, for being here. This was awesome, and we look forward to seeing what y'all have in the future, and of course the wonderful content that will be coming your way. Jerry, what should the wonderful Bombad people do?
They should go out again, slap our face on something random, and stay bombad.
All Bombad.